Pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, let's make a couple welcome comments. Welcome to probably the 5th or 6th Saturday that we've been doing this, and I know the library seems to lead us off very frequently. There's coffee, bagels, muffins, and apple cake up here. If you'd like some with some old Saybrook apples. So thank you all for doing this. This is a great way for the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to act collaboratively in budget development. That's really still where we are, is budget development. Our charter technically doesn't state that the Board of Finance gets the budget until March 1. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we started doing this to kind of just develop the budget jointly together, because typically there's probably not so much that needs to be discussed over the course of 4 or 5 months. And we found it a super efficient way to get us to where we need to be and to have everybody educated to make those decisions. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here in the audience. And I also want to thank the Board of Finance for being here, because you don't have to be. And it's, it's Saturday, it's January, and so you don't have to be here. I appreciate it very much. I know Scott and Matt do. Is Matt online yet?
He's on his way.
On his way.
Yeah, he should be here.
So, so thank you, Mr. Chair, and yeah, ready when you are.
With that, our first order of business is the comment from the public. We have quite a public here. Is anybody wish to make comments before the presentation? Get that.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Lyle. I'm with a very active community group called SOS Trees. And I presented at this room a couple weeks ago to the joint board, and it was really well received, and I appreciate that. The follow-up to that is I did send an email to the Board of Selectmen. I don't know all you other names, so sorry about that. But I'd like you to consider putting money in the budget to support the recommendation in the natural resource section of the Plan of Conservation and Development, which is to protect Old Saybrook's critical natural resources. There's an item in that plan that says increase resources to the tree warden and to property owners to focus on tree stewardship and to prevent the spread of invasive species. The group that I helped start are very concerned about the loss of trees due to development, disease, trimming, age, and we're also see that your land use staff is very active when they respond to complaints or concerns about residents when they see their neighbors or other people cutting down their trees. And so it appears as if we need more resources to save our trees. We have a really low canopy. We're the lowest canopy of the shoreline. We are the second lowest in Middlesex County, and we just really have to support our trees. So we stand to help you. I mean, I have a long group of volunteers. We stand to help you do this. So if you help us preserve the trees, we're going to give away trees to residents that want to plant them. So that's my request. And I just wanted to reiterate the email I sent. Thank you.
Can I ask a definition? When you refer to a low canopy, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing.
Okay.
Yeah, a canopy is from the top, how widespread, how much of the ground, not the water, how much of the ground is covered by shade. So SOS trees really means save our shade. When you don't have shade, you have higher heat, you have higher energy, you have more air pollution. Trees that help mitigate stormwater, they soak up the extra rain we have. So so that's what I mean. So we want a higher tree canopy. Yeah, Carmen.
So I appreciate that. This week the Board of Selectmen received an email of correspondence from Kathy Connolly. Because what we've been doing, of course, is putting some money aside for invasives. And we have a relatively healthy tree warden budget already. We really
Okay.
do. And we only take down, the town only takes down dead and diseased trees that are so deemed by the tree warden. And I, every year, solicit people for trees. I'm like, I want to plant trees, and I've planted elms and maples typically. But you probably don't even know all the trees we've planted
Right.
for trees we've taken down. The remarkable thing is the number of people who don't want trees. They don't want them. In perfect spots where there's no wires above,
Right.
where you can plant a large tree, because, you know, Eversource doesn't want trees growing into wires. A significant amount of people are just like, not in my yard. And so you run up against that too. I'm happy to talk to you, but Kathy's letter talked about vegetation management.
Right.
So the tree warden budget, the tree budget that we have, which is about 40 to 45,000, to prune trees, plant trees, take trees down. And we found that over the last few years has been sufficient. And then we put some money aside for vegetation management. She's talking about saying that should all kind of be in one bucket. Instead of identifying invasives as being different from vegetation management, which is planting trees, pruning trees, taking down dead and diseased trees, and managing invasive species. So we're also looking at that.
Great. Well, one thing on Route 1, you've got a beautiful sidewalk. It would be great if we could shade the sidewalk. So things like that. And then the other thing is it's an education piece. There are people that cut down trees, disfigure trees, and they're within 100 feet of the wetland. So that is, and so we're trying to, not us, but we're asking that those kinds of things, we add resources to the ability to educate the public about what you can and cannot do. And then the whole need for trees and canopy with regards to the benefit, the health and benefit. So
100%.
Yeah, cool.
Just one last thing.
Yeah.
On Route 1, you'd be amazed at the resistance from the state that we get planting on a state road. You can do it, but
well, I know you've been
truly it's not easy.
supportive of that. Yeah.
So even where Mike Picard did his new sheds across from the auto dealer,
Right.
the state wants all those trees down.
Uh-huh.
They want them down
Right.
because they're in the state right of way, but they're never going to impact the state right of way.
Yeah.
They're very difficult once a tree is down to put one up. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're hoping residents will want to plant their trees. And Eversource has given us a list of trees that are good for underneath the wires.
Yep.
And the other thing along the sidewalk, vegetation, bushes, magnolia bushes or whatever. But I know you're on board with this, but I'm just going to promote as much as you can.
Good.
All right,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments from the public? We do not have any public online, so we will move to comments from board members before we get started. Any board members have comments? Members of the Board of Selectmen have comments?
I know.
Then let's jump in. Acton Public Library. It's all yours.
Good morning. Thanks for having the library present our budget to you. We love talking about the library because every day we learn something new and no day is ever the same there. We deal with the public every single day. My name is Amanda Brower. I've been the director for a little over 5 years. And presenting with me is Emily Sheehan. She is our children's librarian and my assistant director. We're excited to show you what we've been working on over the past year and what we have been planning for a long time in the near future. I would also like to thank all of our Board of Trustees members. I don't know if you'd like me to introduce everyone, and my friends members. So we have Anne, I'll just do first names. I'm sure a lot of these people you know. Anne, Nancy, Marianne, Pat, Eileen, Nancy, Sue, Mary, Ellen. Did I get one? I can't see. So these are our friends and they do a lot of our fundraising over there, and our Board of Trustees has been working with me for these 5 years, working on doing everything we can to make this a stronger library. So I thank them all for their active guidance and fundraising efforts.
So today, we will go over the agenda as laid out here. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. There will also be a time at the end to ask questions about this past year or the upcoming renovation project. We have created a short video at the end to share with you as well to explain the changes that will improve the overall space and what services we can provide you.
I hope you have this on paper.
The eyes.
Because
Even on paper, just.
I know. So I create these presentations in Canva. I don't know, like it just has a lot of fun things. And then when I transfer it into PowerPoint, it's trying to kill it. So I'm sorry. I apologize. So for the fiscal year 2025, we asked for an overall budget of $1,112,992. That's an increase of $42,967, which is 4% higher than 2024. In the next slides, we'll break down each of these categories briefly to explain the numbers reflected in this year's request.
As you can see, we have grouped our expenditures into 6 categories. Most of these categories we had very little ability to change, but we continue to contain spending by making sure we find low prices on supplies. By using our negotiated library bids through the Connecticut Library Consortium, as well as the Lion Consortium, we are able to keep our collection costs, professional development, and our technology investments as low as possible.
Okay, so salaries and benefits. The majority of our library's budget are costs that we have little to no control over, as mentioned, such as salaries and benefits, which are largely contractual through the union. Of the 24 employees, the ones that work the bulk of the operating hours are the 11 union employees. These employees cover the 232 hours allotted to the 4 service points during the 58 hours a week the library is open. Our main priority is customer service. Alas, the old notion that librarians are aloof and libraries are quiet is no longer the way we operate. Many people might be surprised if they knew how many compliments I've received about how welcoming and friendly my staff is. Each staff member has a variety of on-desk and off-desk functions that they've either been assigned to or taken on as a special project because they want to enrich the community members with their skill sets, and it makes for a much more enjoyable day for them. For example, one of our staff members also delivers to homebound residents. This was a project she helped initiate about 3 years ago and has helped expand its reach throughout the town. And we also service places like, oh no. Lakeview, thank you. See them there, welcome. And she made approximately 150 deliveries during 2023.
This $27,758 increase in large part is due to salary increases for cost of living. The other sizable increase was in defined contributions. We continue to invest in the quality of staff we have, and as a result have changed the focus of 2 positions to better meet the needs of the community. For instance, we now have a community engagement coordinator as well as a programming and communications coordinator. Lots of coordinating.
Both of those, I just wanted to mention that both of those positions was a raise in hours and a raise in salary. And like Emily said, we are investing in the people that really work hard for us, and we're really proud of the work that they put in.
Is the large increase in defined contribution directly related to the salary increase, or how does that work?
I think it is, especially with those 2 positions.
It's related to the salary, so we budget 8% of a person's salary. And as people, especially in the library, we have turnover, they come off of the defined benefit plan, which is not budgeted in individual departments, but as a line item, which I'll talk about later. And then that adds to the defined benefit amount if they're a new person that comes on a defined contribution plan. Kind of defined contribution, a defined benefit.
And defined contribution is in the the line item within the department.
Right,
Yes.
fine, yes. Mhm.
Can you give a breakdown? I mean, I'm seeing about an 18% increase in salaries. Is that new positions also included in that?
I think that's the.
So that's new positions and also they support agreement because a lot of the salaries at the library were up against minimum wage. So when we've had all these minimum wage increases, we had to increase the salary schedule. A lot of the employees came back to step one, and so they are receiving both a step and a cost of living increase. So we expect this to happen. We knew this was going to happen over the next 2 or 3 years. I see larger than typical increases in the library salaries as people adjust to the new levels.
So there is new salaries in this. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And then these two positions,
What's the breakdown on that?
the breakdown on which they,
In other words, you hired 2 new people, it sounds like. and
oh, they're not extra people. I'm sorry, did you want to?
Oh, no, I can, so they were previously at a 25-hour a week, both people were at a 25-hour position. So I raised them, I looked at jobs comparable within the town. And I raised, I shouldn't say I, because it was with Carl and Leanne. And we raised these positions up to what the functions that they were performing. So not only did we increase their hours from 25 to 30, we also increased their
Level.
level.
All right,
So-
so also it increased benefits, is that correct?
It does increase
Yes.
benefits
Yeah.
when you do something like that. A couple of years ago, well, for many years, even though the library folks, anybody over 20 hours a week were in the support union, they didn't have the same pay scale as the support union. It was very odd. And quite frankly, it was up to the support union to do that. And they never did. And finally they did. And so now the library staff is matching. If you were to look at the support union contract, we have levels up to, 15, I think. I don't know that there's any level 1, 2s, or 3s because they're, so typically we're paying people at like level 7, 8, 9, or 10 in there. And a lot of these folks were being paid at like a level 4 or something. And they were being paid so low, they were actually bumping up against the minimum wage. And so what we did is with the union, we recategorized a lot of the jobs to sync them with the support union. So now they are in a defined level. And that did bump them up in terms of wages to where they should be if you were to look across the town. And then there were some increased hours. The reason for the increased hours, and I think we discussed this last year, maybe even the year before, is because of job losses. And if, good people aren't staying for 20 or 25 hours. They want more hours. When they hit 30 hours, it does trigger the Affordable Care Act, which is not a huge payment for the town. It's not a family health plan. It's usually a single health plan, but it does trigger that if that person elects to take it. I don't know if any of these folks did. But anyway, that's the reason for some of the growth in the salary line item.
But the 25 to 30 hour positions were offset by them not filling a 20-hour
Right.
position. So the majority of these increases is due to the contractual negotiations that took place.
Sorry. Sorry, my name is George Chang, and since we're stuck on this slide, I figure I'll comment on this in a second. Sorry. My comment is, your presentation, by the time you finish, but we allow you to finish, it's actually excellent. But I do want to comment on this slide, and I think we address perhaps maybe Brad's comment and Bruce. And I think you're doing guys a disservice by basically lumping up the 27%, 27,036 all in one number. Your chart is actually readable, you actually printed it out. So your actual salary increase is 2.9%, which is in line with almost every single department in this place. And so if you want to present this, I would actually break this out to salary increases 2.9%, which will not shock people. 18,000 is actually totally explainable.
Right.
mean, Leanne's point about the increase now from 25 to 30 is actually being offset by the next one. And so there is actually, your increase in salary is actually in line with everybody else.
Okay.
The rest of the presentation in terms of how much use there is in the library is remarkable. And so the actual salary increase is well-deserved. The other comment I want to make is the $27,000 increase you're asking for is simply 3/4 of the total budget increase. It's a very personnel-heavy department or library, which is expected. And so the majority of that, again, is what Bruce mentioned, is the benefits, and the other part of that really is maintenance. It's an excellent budget. I think if you just broke that out, that just showed your budget,
Right.
salary increase of 2.9%. I think it's a quality concern.
Okay, thanks.
That was my comment, was I'm just looking at, 635 to 766.
Right,
That's what
Yeah.
threw me off.
understood.
But the 2.9%
Yeah.
increase, which is in line with everybody else.
Yeah, well, I'm only reading what I'm reading, so.
Yep.
We are on facilities. So the 21,000 square foot interior of the library has its own set of challenges, but thankfully we have done what is necessary to keep the building clean and safe for our patrons. We use a contractor to clean the building 6 days a week. We are open 7 days a week for a majority of the year. And they supply most of the cleaning supplies, so that keeps that line low. We actually moved to that maybe 2 years ago, I think it was, and that when they took on those costs for the cleaning supplies, that helps out a lot. We also luckily have only had small maintenance repairs to deal with this year, mostly plumbing, some electrical, and some issues with our older sliding doors, which are hard to service because there's like one company in the state that doesn't, so.
This year, like last, we added an increase for the cost of fuel. We also have a couple of contracts that have increased incrementally as well.
That was short.
Sure.
Okay. Our visitors. So, and I have library card applications here right over there. If anyone does not have their library card, we are more than happy to help you get one today. Or you can even do it online if you want. And I just, let me preface this by saying, across the state, this is a trend that people, although people are coming in and using libraries, I think that a lot of people use different libraries and sometimes they just don't think they realize that having a library card is, hey, you can do a lot of stuff with your library card, which we'll talk about, but it really helps us with statistics and getting funding with those kind of numbers. So if you don't have them, please get one. We will help with that. So while our visitor statistics are rising again towards pre-COVID numbers, our registered library cards have declined to 39% across the state. I think it's at 33%. Although we don't require visitors to hold a library card, to use our facilities, our computers, attend our programs, we would like to encourage you to get your card. We had about 67,584 people enter the library, and that doesn't include the people that we're outreaching to. We actually have tech times over at the estuary now, and we have people using our grounds and patio as well. So they never trigger that door counter that we have. And so we got our statistics.
As previously mentioned, the way that libraries are being utilized is progressively changing. As a result, we continuously update and adapt our programming. The library provides programs from the youngest residents all the way up through our oldest residents and everybody in between. We recognize that families have more choices now than ever before when it comes to education and entertainment. The beauty of the library is that programs are free and open to all. Over the past 5 years, attendance has been increasing. In 2023 alone, we saw the third highest attendance numbers since 1996.
And I will just, personally, I would say thank Emily because I have heard so many compliments about her story times and the programming that she does. I think members here have also heard that within the community, how good our children's programming is. And I think it's great. So I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. So. I'm sure the families do too. So collections. Did you know that we hold more than 74,000 physical collection items? And just let me tell you, the books are not going away. Books are here to stay. Don't worry, we are not getting rid of our books. We will never get rid of our books. Oh, not on. So this doesn't take into account the almost 700,000 items that we can borrow and lend in our 30-member library consortium Lion. We also share over 35,000 ebooks, e-audiobooks, and e-magazine titles. These titles don't just appear on the shelves. They are selected by multiple librarians that use collection development policies that ensure that our collections are relevant, expansive, and inclusive. One of the best parts of our profession is getting a book or another collection item into the hands of someone that needs it. We only increase this line very minimally due to a database that we subscribe to. Their contract price went up. The other benefit, or really one of the best benefits of being part of the Lion Consortium, is that we don't need to buy every single book that is published, because with our interlibrary loan delivery system, we have the ability to get those items delivered within a day or two into the hands of the patrons that request them.
Does everybody know what the Lion system is, the library online? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something the town went to about 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
And they also help us with IT and
Computers
we have a computer, updating computer every year. So it's been great. Any questions on
Circulation, the staff works meticulously at providing a well-rounded and curated collection of materials. That's clearly reflected in this slide. Our circulation numbers almost double that of the average town, as well as the total circulation numbers statewide. Whether people are coming to the program and staying for the collection or vice versa, physical materials continue to be a popular draw amongst users. So yes, they're not going. Yeah.
Oh, just big readers.
Right?
Okay, so getting to the exciting part. Well, I mean, it's all exciting. It really is. But so this is something we've been working on for a long time. So the staff and the Board of Trustees has been working towards a reinvigorated interior space for close to 5 years. The first mentions of how a reconfigured and modernized space could serve the community better was during our strategic planning process in 2020. Many of the ideas were just about practicality and what the needs would be for our library as it kept progressing towards a more community-centric location. From these ideas, we collaborated with the Economic Development Department on a grant for an architectural feasibility study. This study helped us visualize the concepts and developed further the ways we felt we could expand the library's capacity to serve the community. This past year, we hired an architectural firm that solidified our ideas and helped us prepare to apply for the State of Connecticut construction grant. Our application was strong and we were awarded $2 million to apply toward a $5 million renovation project. The grant stipulates that we must raise a matching $2 million of non-town funds. So we're excited to start the project and have begun focusing on our fundraising efforts.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How do you determine the square footage allocated to each segment of the library? Is it done on a prototype of a 21,000 square foot building? Or is it done on a usage basis of an experience level in the state?
So I think a lot of what the architect worked on was really more at this stage of the game was more about practicality and more about the flow of how the library works. So yeah, I could see, you don't want to have the whole lower level being a quiet space because that's not how it functions anymore. But those areas still need to be covered. When we talked about space, I don't think we really talked about specific space allocated towards, we didn't say, okay, children use 75% of the collection, so they get 75% of the area. But we looked at the space we had because we're not expanding our space. we're only looking about, reconfiguring how the space is used currently. So it really was more about practicality. And what we could fit in there in the space and make it work for everyone. So. It's not here. Where is it? Oh, there. Okay. Honestly, really, where's that?
I have a question about the space. Did you check with the, high school to see how their library is used as far as, the size of it? And then, is it being used? I was told by an administrator, I was told today, that their library is not being used much. And I'm just concerned about building a teen space when the high school supposedly, it's hearsay by a teacher or somebody in the faculty, that their library is hardly used, and I just want to make sure that, I don't know how many square feet you're proposing for this, but I just want you to be aware that that's the word I got.
Is the library at the high school staffed?
I believe it.
They've been putting money into,
So,
sometimes.
I mean, but I think a better question is, why are you building teen space and what makes you think you're going to attract them?
Because they're there now and they're sitting on the floor. And, I don't know if you've been in the library lately, in the teen space, and even as uninviting as it is, we have teens in there and they want to enjoy this space, but the teen space is a walkway to a back room. So we have the public walking in and walking through their teen space, and they're still there and they're still playing games and they're still reading. And we have, every midterms and every exam season, we have a bunch of kids coming in and using our spaces. I see it being used by young adults.
So maybe your facility is more comfortable for the students, and that's why they're going. I mean,
That's exactly what, we want them to feel comfortable in the space, and I think our young adult librarian, he tries to make it comfortable, but I mean, when you make it a walkway to a bathroom, I mean, that's the message you're sending. You're kind of an afterthought, and we don't want them to be an afterthought. We want everyone in the community to have a space and to feel comfortable using the library. So there's, in the way people use the library now is vastly different from 25 years ago when this was renovated the last time.
So do you collaborate with the school at all as far as the library and the students?
Yeah, I mean, I go over to the Goodwin Elementary School. Our young adult librarian has connections over the high school and the middle school as well. So we do try to utilize those.
So it sounds as though you're doing something right, and maybe you're doing something.
It's also
I know.
school.
Yeah.
Like, when you're done with school, you just want to be done with school.
Sometimes, I know my kiddo, she's in middle school, and I know that sometimes the only opportunity she's got to go to the library is like during lunch or something, and it's like, how do you fit that in? Do you want to eat or do you want to go grab a book? It's like, I don't, sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's not as, it's not a relaxing place, so. At school, so maybe, that's what we're hoping to develop. But- Okay, so we're excited. You can do that.
No, we're looking for this now.
Put this out.
IT,
I know. I think I just turned it off. There you go, there you go. Good stuff.
Oh, I have to send it to you.
It had such.
Oh, it's so boring now. I worked so hard on this.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
Larry did something.
yeah.
He's listening.
He can hear us, yeah.
It's gone.
Here it comes.
Look at you now. You can do it.
And use that one.
Nice. Mobile furniture. It's not as impactful without the music.
You could have been singing.
Oh,
I-
you do not want to hear me sing.
She's
I
like,
was-
"Oh, you'll sing, all right."
I was kicked out of chorus when I was 12, okay? You don't want to hear me sing. But, you know, I think, I don't know if anyone on the board wants to talk about this, but we've been talking about a lot of this since I think I started 5 years ago. And, you know, everyone on the board and on the Friends, they've been supportive and they want to know how they can help. And, you know, we're talking about more subcommittees and more meetings, and they've been there every step of the way. So I think I'm so pleased with all the work that we put in. I know that, you know, the library is just gonna be, it's already awesome, and we have great people there, and I just, you know, with the reinvigorated space, I think that we can just offer more to more people, so.
George? Again, phenomenal presentation. If I may, just several points. One is, the participation per capita, you know, Saybrook, impressive compared to other towns our size in the state. I don't know what you guys do. If you can find out what it is that you guys do, and just continue to do that and, you know, progress with that, because obviously it's a very impressive number. I missed the state grant. It was $5 million, and I missed the number in terms of, you guys supposed to raise 2 million, so the state ponied up 3 million, how that works?
So we want a $2 million grant.
I see.
We have to come up with 2 million. Right now, we already have about 1.3, and that was from a previous trust, the Tucker Trust, and some very recent fundraising. So I think we're in good shape. We're on our way already. So,
So my apologies. So it's
Yeah.
essentially at the end of the $4 million, they point up 2 million and we match 2 million. Something along.
yeah.
And then they're hoping to come in for $1 million from the town.
Understood.
Right.
Perfect. All right, very good. So
I'll say it instead of you.
There you go.
a couple comments there. So, I mean, the library's going to go through a major renovation of essentially worth $5 million. So sort of just keep in mind for your future budget when you create them is to make sure that the line item for maintenance or repair
Right.
reflects that, because that's a huge investment. So better keep that in mind. The other component I was just looking through is in fact is already built in. But the computer use in the library is a pretty major component. And I think it's very much appreciated by people. I think Larry gave a wonderful presentation that all Windows 10 machines will essentially be no longer supported by 2025. That just, so you guys want to keep in mind next year that if those computers need to be replaced, that those become line items as well.
Right. Agreed. Thank you.
So in terms of per capita though, why is that? Do you think it's because we are kind of a hub area and there are maybe, I don't know who else has a public library in the area, but a lot of them are associations. I know some are anyway, but why is your per capita?
I think our hours, for one, but
Okay.
I would say mostly our staff. I mean, I literally get a compliment every week, if not more than one, about my staff and how friendly they are and how willing they are to go the extra for the person. You know, when they walk into the library, I don't know what expectations are sometimes, but you know, when I, you know, hear about my staff, it's always, wow, I don't get this everywhere. The story times, I'm the programs we offer. I think adding, you know, we have meeting rooms, you know, that people come in and use. I think that we offer a lot of services with,
Could I say something? Absolutely. From my experience, when I meet people from other towns, you know, locally, they're always the first thing they say when I'm in front, I'm in Old Saybrook and associated with the library, is how phenomenal they find our library. And there's people of all ages, with kids, without kids, that it really is the staffing and the programming that, from Old Line, Essex, all of them, they still find themselves coming here.
Okay, George?
Sorry, if I just may, again, your presentation, there's this full information, right? I missed this one. So you're implying that, the number of, cars that you issue, there's some benefits associated with that percentage. And so,
Well, I mean, it is actually, it's a form of identification that you can use in other places, just as bare minimum. You can also use, our online, ebooks. You don't have to, we do have a fair number of people that don't use, they're commuters, so they use our digital resources. We actually had quite an increase during COVID. That's when we made our library cards offer. We let them, you can sign up online, that way they can use digital items, just for convenience. But in part, it does help us with statistics, so.
so I thought maybe it was trying to imply that, that the state or some grants from the state, in which case it's a revenue.
It's also good to see that is one of the statistics we gather every year. So if
right.
there is a possibility, how many people use your library? So it gets plugged in, so.
Understood. And so I'm just wondering whether this is something that we can, I'm gonna go way on a limb here, right? So basically put the application in with every single tax bill that gets sent out to the community, right? So-
I'm on board.
Yeah, I know, we would love that.
Yeah.
I'm way on there, but for something along those lines, right? So I mean, you gotta basically do that, right? As opposed to bring in for a meeting on a Saturday morning.
Right.
Appreciate your effort, but you're not gonna get outline.
Right.
Sorry. Sorry.
So I have one question, going back to your program page, where the $700 increase is a 9.6% increase. Is that specifically targeted to a program, is one question, and number two, are there programs, that seems like a small amount of money to me, and so, are there programs that are being asked for that you are currently not able to provide because you don't have the resources?
So luckily, very luckily, we have our friends group, and our friends group supplies us with, I think last year was $12,000 worth of programming. So when you consider that a performer that comes in might be $350, we had Florence Griswold come in and they were $250 a piece for, a 4-series class. So, and they're filled up. So we listen to what people want. We ask them at the end of the program, would you be interested and Cindy's always following up and looking for more opportunities to bring more types of programming. I was looking at doing a sign language class, for adults. I think you had offered one for children, and it was rather expensive. So some of the programming that we like to do is a little more on the more expensive side, but if they're being filled and being asked for, we feel that we need to provide those.
But you also have another reason.
We do have another resource, or we would never be able to offer as many programs as we do.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
So just one final comment, Samson. I'm a big fan of the idea of drawing other people from other towns to use our resources. I think there's two schools of thought on that. Some people are like, oh, it's an old Saybrook library, but it's good for the local economy when people are using the Trask Park splash pad from other towns at noon on a Thursday, and then they're gonna go somewhere to eat or shop or whatever. And I like the fact that our library is a draw from other communities. I think that's a healthy thing for our town, so.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Very appreciate it, and thank you
Appreciate it.
to all of you who
Yeah.
came as well.
Thank you. Thank you, volunteers.
We'll move on to Parks and Rec and Ray. And we don't have. Gary,
Oh, okay.
Hello, Gary. How are you?
Thank you. You're welcome. And then I'm just.
So I just started doing this, so, but fortunately.
No, you're not here.
So, I'd like to go.
Yeah.
Well, I got middle of March now, but.
Jerry.
Yeah. Oh, you're.
Yeah, it was like.
You definitely have noticed the.
Yeah.
Every now and then there's somebody that, you know, is wandering, but.
I mean, that's.
Sick all week, but, okay, yeah, it was my work, but.
Right. Great, all right. We're gonna try to get started here so we can keep moving.
Yes, sir.
Keep our momentum going.
Good job there. Ray, thank you very much. Susan, very nice to see you. Let me start this by suggesting that, we have had the opportunity to take a look at what you presented in the way of, so if you want to focus on hitting the highlights, we don't really need to
Each of the line items.
each item, each
Sure.
page, and then why don't we take a break at the end of the operation before we go to the capital, and then talk about the operation side and. They're good.
Sounds good to me, thank you.
We'll try not to interrupt you.
Just before the meeting goes, I want to tell everyone, I am a proud card-carrying person of the Acton Library. And with my other hats that everyone here knows that I wear, we do use their public room for meetings and special education programs and so on extensively. So that's it. Now we're back to Park and Rec.
Thanks, Sue. So, thanks everyone for having us. I'd like to welcome two other board members that we have with us. It's Jimmy Henderson and Jane Wizolowski. All our board members are very integral in the Parks and Recreation Department and what we do there. We have 19 different facilities that we administer with lots and lots of people going through all our parks each and every year. And thanks to the Board of Finance and Carl's foresight of bringing our parks up to speed, as you want to say, putting a lot of effort and a lot of money into them to make them what they are today. And we're going to continue to get better. We're going to continue to grow and to offer the best things that we can offer for our community and for all those other people that enjoy coming to the beaches, enjoy going to the mini golf course, enjoy going to Trash Park, to the water park. And we're very proud of all our facilities, and we're going to continue to
get them better and better and better, and, lots of things on the horizon here going for the Park Rec Department, so. As you may or may not know, we have 4 different budgets within our Parks and Recreation Department. The first budget, the recreation budget, houses the majority of our salaries. That is our full-time staff, all our seasonal part-time staff, from lifeguards to parking attendants to building staff. And though, in this particular budget, that's the majority of our increases. There's a slide later on in the presentation that actually breaks down the number of increases for staff as opposed to operational fees that are also in this budget. But as you know, minimum wage is gonna be increasing, well, it already increased in January for the state of Connecticut to $15.69, I believe it is. Up from $15, and that's gonna increase, well, I guess it could decrease every year as well. We're not really positive how that will work. It's all on a formula from the state, and who knows what they do half the time, so. We anticipate every year that will go up. So those particular increases are reflected in a 5% increase, which is essentially what that increase is, in those line items for facility attendants, youth center coordinators, gym supervisors, lifeguards, and parking attendants as well. The very top number is all contractual, the 6,170. Those are all contractual union increases that are factored in. So those are the majority of our increases in our recreation budget, which is up 3.7% total from a total that I'm asking for is $684,618. Any questions on the recreation budget?
Why don't you go through and let's go back? That way we won't keep interrupting you.
Go through.
Go through
Oh, okay, okay.
all 4 budgets, and then we'll come back to it, okay?
Next budget is our mini golf budget. Our fun place in the summertime that thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people visit. We brought in over $280,000 gross revenue with mini golf last season. That is from May to mid-October. And as usual, just did a phenomenal job down there. My staff is awesome. They run the place, really. I just give them insight and they go off and do their thing. As Megan will tell you, her son worked there. It's just a great place. Each and every year for the last, I'll say 21 years since I've been here, it amazes me the amount of people that go there and love it and enjoy it. I grew up in a town that had a mini golf course in it as well. And as a kid, we used to visit it probably 30 times a summer. And we see that here in our course too. And everyone loves it. And how can you beat the view that's down there? So this budget supports our mini golf course. Again, the seasonal employees received a 5% raise due to the increase in minimum wage. And the repairs and maintenance for $3,000, those are for increases to repair the buildings that are around the course, which includes painting. There's some finish work that needs to be done on the town hall. Some of the crown molding is rotted away. The schoolhouse, some of the siding is rotting away. They're 13 years old now, believe it or not. So they require some maintenance, and some of those costs to do that has gone up, and that's increased. That's why I increased that particular line item. The next particular budget is our Dickey Duffy Pavilion budget. Very small increases in here. The one change is your part-time seasonal employee, which we did not have a line item for. I pay a person to open and close that building for functions and also for cleaning after our programs on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So that particular person was getting paid out of a different line item that we didn't even have, essentially. So we needed to add some money into there to pay that person. And I'm pretty sure I can make it work with the $2,500 for the year. So that's where that particular line item comes from. And our last budget is our parks budget. The majority of this particular budget is maintenance and water cost. And as you can see, lawn care, that is our contractual person who does all our extra stuff that our public works crew cannot do. For example, going to Maple Avenue Field and trimming back the trees on the roadway that goes down into it. going down to Fort Saybrook Monument Park and trimming up those areas, taking care of certain leaf things, and he does certain things at Trask as well, so he does a lot for us. Without Mr. Castro and his crew, I don't believe our parks would look the way they do. And that's not saying anything bad about our Public Works Department, they do a phenomenal job as well, but the support that this particular person gives us makes our parks go to the next level, I feel. So, there's only so much time in the day, the Public Works Department in the summer is essentially mowing, right? And they have a lot of fields to mow, and it takes a while to mow them in all our market parks. So, this extra support person is really important to us. The water bill, did go up, we were a little bit behind last year, and their fees did increase. So I needed to reflect, their fee increase as well, that's through the water company. So all four budgets combined represents $874,881. Of that, 61% of it is represented in part-time and full-time salaries, which is quite a large chunk of our salary. And then if you include the insurances, which also goes along with those benefits, we're up to almost 77% of our budget is just on salaries alone. So we have a fairly large budget here, and we do a lot with in my mind, a minimum amount of people. In our office, I have a front desk person, a full-time program coordinator, and a part-time teen center coordinator, and a part-time person who cleans the building. And those are our main staff members for everything that we do. Everyone else are seasonal staff, which are generally between the ages of 16 and 22. So we don't really rely on them to do too much. We have a few supervisors at each of the facilities, and those are my college level, if not older. We do have one older adult who helps out on the beaches in the summer, and he's invaluable to us. So, but for the most part, there are three of us running the department and what we do. So I feel without my staff, we couldn't do anything that we do because they're so good at what they do. So I'm very blessed to have all of our people that we have. Just a little pie chart to show you where it is. I like pie charts. They just kind of give you a little bit better idea of what's happening. The purple there is the income that we bring in the summer. So essentially half of our budget we quote cover, but all that money goes back to the general fund. But that's where our budget kind of lies. It's just a neat little thing to show up. And as we move forward, this is just a bigger breakdown of the recreation budget with our salaries and our benefits and what the supplies and the maintenance is. So most of those supplies in the recreation budget go towards the recreation department, whether it be supplies, whether it's maintenance needs. We do have ball field upgrades in that particular budget, so I'm not sure why it's always been, since I've ever been here, that particular line item's always been in the recreation and not the parks budget, but it is what it is. Maybe we can consider moving that later on in life, but just how it fell into the budget process years and years and years ago. So these are our breakdowns and how the recreation budget looks. Again, next slides are very similar for the mini golf budget, which is over 60% staffing. And without staff at mini golf, the mini golf course would not run. And so we are open, we are open, let's see, 70, 80 hours in the summer a week. So we have two different shifts that work down there. We have a morning shift and an afternoon shift. I'm sorry, an evening shift, and there's at least 2 people on each shift. I like to have 3 people in the evening, just because it's busier, and we need to have safety in numbers with our staff. So that is why I staff the mini golf course the way it is, and without them, we wouldn't have what we have, so it's great. Same thing to the Vicky Duffy Pavilion budget, just breaking down exactly what happens down there. The majority of that particular budget is utilities. As you can imagine, it's a building, we have to have utilities, heating, cooling, electricity, water, and those are the main factors within that particular budget. It's a very self-sustaining building. Yes.
You don't want questions now, do you?
Well, he's got two more pages and then we'll jump.
I gotta write them all down.
All right. Parks budget. Again, our parks budget is majority, utilities and maintenance. So in our parks budget, we have all our water costs, we have electricity for parks. And then our maintenance for our various parks. I lump lawn care, it is maintenance, but I lump it as a different line item because it is larger, just to show what we actually do for lawn care as a part, as opposed to fixing a toilet or taking, repairing a fence or something like that. So it's just in my mind different, and I think everyone needs to know that that's what we do with that particular chunk of money. The last couple pages, again, go line by line on, which was increases and which were not increasing. So any particular line item that was increased, you can see it in here and what they were for. So it's a little bit easier to break down as opposed to looking at that large recreation budget. For me, I just see it every day, so it's a little bit easier, but I think breaking it down, you can see the numbers here that 18,000 of that $24,000 increase is fixed increases, whether it's health insurance or just what the minimum wage increases were, as opposed to the $6,000, which is very minimal for other things that we needed to increase. I'm not gonna go through the minimum wage thing, we all know what that is all about. And the last one here, summary of the other budgets, exactly like before, just showing each and every increase that we have. Fine laid out manner there. Okay. Questions?
Great, perfect. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Brad.
Oh, nice job.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back each page here now and find my questions. On water, didn't the water rates just increase recently?
They did in January.
And then you're still cutting yourself short after the previous year rates, so.
So yes, no, maybe. So we had just put in a water irrigation system at Maple Avenue. We had actually a large leak there, so that one contributed to some money.
Okay.
So it was out of our control, and actual PVC, the pipe that they put in, the actual split on us.
Did you tell them that?
Oh, yeah.
The water company, did they give you credit?
No, the water company did not. No, we didn't tell the water company that.
You should, because I believe they'll give you a credit if you have.
Oh, I didn't know the water company's into that. The water company's, okay, I can ask
Yeah,
them.
no, I mean, I've heard it before.
Because they usually send us letters when they say, hey, you've used a larger amount.
It's too late then.
Yeah. Well, it was even the contractor put in, he's like, I've never seen a PVC pipe split like this.
Yeah, it's unusual because they usually expand it.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to know is kilowatts. Are we getting a special rate for the park and rec as well as the town?
Our electricity rate we're under contract right now, like a 39-month contract.
Are we still watching it? Because I have a contract at my house, but then I just looked again and I found out that I can get a better deal. Break the contract to a new contract.
We bid it out. I mean, we couldn't break it, I don't think, without a penalty. I don't know when it expires, quite frankly. I can look at it and report back.
I think that's it. Let me make sure. When they're doing mini golf repairs, anytime they could possibly do it, if they could use AZAC instead of wood, then it's one and done.
Definitely been looking into AZAC a lot.
Okay.
Just though, obviously, we all know the weather down there is so different than anywhere else.
And then in the Dickey Duffy Pavilion, have they done an energy audit lately?
I have not done one there. No, I have not.
Because they're offering special deals right now, like a Nest thermostat, they're giving $85 off credit, instant credit. And the other thing is, I don't know if do you have splitters down there?
We do not know.
Yeah, the splitters right now, we're giving a heck of a rebate. And the other thing is they're mounted high, and then the unit you're mounted high, so there's water problems, it won't affect it. But they have, believe on a hot water heater, they have like a $700 rebate. So I mean, we should really look at what's available.
We have a gas hot water heater down there.
Yeah.
And it's wall mounted.
That's good.
It's very efficient. I actually just changed it. We had a fire down there this summer. And we had to change back because it fried itself. So it's brand new, actually.
All right, well, if you think about maybe the townwide energy audit might be the land.
We've done that, did that not too long ago.
I thought they were around last year, or the year before.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just, certain rebates right now. That just don't have.
Okay, other questions? George?
Yeah, so I don't know if actually the slide of the projector, but at some point, one of your slides that you mentioned that the overall contribution from Parks and Rec to the town was like
35,000.
Right, which is
Yeah.
quite remarkable. I think, but you mentioned that the mini golf was about 275, so I assume the 170 was from.
So we have income at Harvey's Beach. We bring in about $100,000 there in the summer for people who park there out of town. We also contribute from our beach passes, which is around 46,000 or so. That goes right back to the general fund, so.
So I figured that the rest of it was probably into the beach, which is quite.
Yeah, and then we have two other accounts that don't go, it goes to a revolving account, so everything we sell at our town beach and our concession at mini golf, goes to a revolving account, so.
And so, when you talk about these full budgets, is the beach considered under which of the budget?
So, the beaches, we pay out of two budgets really, is our staff comes out of the recreation budget. Some of our maintenance comes out of the parks budget. Yeah, so Harvey's and town don't have their own individual budgets, they kind of focus out of both those budgets.
Great, thank you.
What does Vicky Duffy provide in the way of revenue?
It's around $20,000 a year for the amount of, functions that we have. We have around, depending on meetings and, other groups that meet down there, it's about 250 bookings, we like to call them, for the year.
So those bookings also include, nonprofit organizations that need a meeting place. Town meetings for any reason at all. So it's not all just paid birthdays and anniversaries and things like that.
Right.
That building is used for a lot of, use for, like I said, other organizations.
Okay. John?
How many seasonal employees do you have and how many positions do they cover? And does each position have a job description?
Yes, so, in the summer, we grow to around 60 people on staff for the summer. That includes I'd like to have around 20 lifeguards. Last year, we were around 16 or so. We have 12 to 15 parking attendants. We have 15 to 18 mini golf staff. And then we also have another 15 to 18 camp staff. And those are our seasonal staff members that we have, and they generally work May to August. And some of them that work in October if they're around.
And you have a job description for all those
Yes.
positions?
Correct.
I counted 92 in the fiscal year ending 2022. I didn't count last year.
Well,
That's a lot of people.
there is a lot of people. That also includes teen center staff, all the number that if you saw if you were looking through last year's budget, we have teen center staff. That's not seasonal, that's year round, because our teen center is open year round.
Yeah, I know there's a
And
breakdown.
building, and people who staff the building in the evenings, on the weekends.
Camps, what about camps? Or is that? part of
Camps
that?
is seasonal one, but also our program instructors are in that number as well. So, there are a few, like, we have a few yoga instructors, we have a fitness instructor, things like that. Those are all lumped in as well, but those are year round.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions people have?
I have a comment.
Yep.
Don't get too excited. So I'm wondering if, Park and Rec has plans. They want to go places. And, they have a strategic plan. We're talking about a few other things right now. And I'm wondering if, as we get through this budget process, if we shouldn't start looking at saying to Park and Revenue, they should start keeping more and more of their revenue, because they're such a revenue generator that they may be able to pay for many of their larger projects that, quite frankly, technically would require a bond. I'll be honest with you, some of the stuff that they have coming. Whereas if we were to slowly, maybe over the course of 2 to 3 years, peel away the revenue from the town, it would go into the mill rate. So let's be straight here. But it goes into their fund. Number one, it gives them money to design, a lot of soft cost money, that there's always soft costs. Match, so when you go for grants at the state level, and that's probably where we'd be going for grants for Park and Rec, there could be actually, it's not even a standard match. Sometimes when you can tell them you'll match 25%, you're more likely to get the grant, as opposed to saying, hey, we can give you a 10% match. So, and maybe just pay for some projects flat out. So I know Town Park, is an area where they want, Park and Rec wants to do some work. Through the ARPA committee, we've talked about new fields, and so maybe that's something that, we can work on, saying, hey, this was the revenue from Park and Rec this year. Based on the discussions that we've had, here is the projected mill rate with current revenue. Here's the projected mill rate taking away $100,000, something like that. Just, I'm throwing that out there, not asking for conversation necessarily or discussion, but it may be something that we should start looking at because Park and Rec has plans.
Is kind of in line with that. And you may not have even started thinking along these lines, but are there other things that could be done that would actually become revenue generators?
Meaning different parks that we could create or
Different activities?
different activities?
whatever?
So we do have revenue generators, but they don't go back to the town. So all our programs, we have approximately 180 programs that we run every year. Those programs are self-sustaining and we try to put per participant $2 back into our program account, which is a revolving account.
Mhm.
So that makes money each and every year, but it's a off budget account that we are able to then pay instructors out of, pay our camp staff, not camp staff, I'm sorry, camp activities, things like that. So those are things that we already do that are in place that are an off budget account. As far as outside activities, I'm sure there are things we could look into. Its space is limited for us, but for example, if we put in a dog park somewhere, it's not gonna create revenue. It's a park that anyone can go to. So, I'm sure we can look into other things.
I'm just thinking, kind of in line with what, if we want to go the direction.
Disc golf is up there, but that is also within a park that we don't charge.
We can do like a tournament, some people.
We can do
disc
tournaments.
golf tournaments,
No,
and then
absolutely.
you could have
We've
like
already
a-
added some
You could have
actually.
like a fee or something.
Yeah. And those would go into our program account. We
Yeah,
can do it through our program.
I know they're big, you have like a
Yeah,
Vermont
yeah.
and stuff.
Well, I think you had the, right around the holidays, right? I couldn't believe how many people were at.
It's amazing, it's very big.
We actually had the number 2 player in the world who's playing in a tournament in Vermont, come down to our facility, call us up and want to do a clinic with the kids, because he heard our course was so good.
Really?
A lot of the guys who pay, people that play it,
Yeah, wow.
they've said it's ranked 1 or 2 in the state right now.
You should use that.
Yeah, and he came down, he loved it, so that was.
There was a lot of traffic over that holiday break.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So Ray, Jim, did you?
Yes, Jane and I have to leave right now to attend a DOE meeting, but I'd just like to say that having worked with Ray and Sue for the past 10, 12 years, I at least, and I am sure the board would support me on this, have full confidence in their stewardship. And as you can see by the projects we've completed recently, the disc golf course, many others they have on the screen there, some are small, some are large in terms of basketball court and tennis court upgrades, but there's a lot of truth to what Carl says about the strategic plan being very influential in how we go forward. And, there's no doubt that the main upgrades that we're going to be doing over at Town Park in the next few years, and possibly even some integration with Mariners Way, there's potential for some parks there. There's always been talk of an ice rink or swimming pool and other revenue generators or draws to Old Saybrook for those. But I'd just like to say that Sue and Ray have been doing an excellent job, and I at least fully support them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there are any more questions on operating and jump to capital? And if these are questions that you by the capital planning.
I will.
Yeah, the capital plan, so were they all suggested to move forward? Was it, should we go through each of these, or are there ones that aren't recommended?
Pretty much recommended everything.
Okay, well, jump in.
Okay, so, capital request, as the slide says, it's an 8 request, but it's actually 7. I sent the wrong one too, but in your booklet, reflects the 7 requests. So the first one is a combined request for the mini golf booth itself. As you know, our mini golf booth is where we, greet and meet everyone, take our money in for the daily, round, so on and so forth. We have, 9 windows that are at that, particular facility, and of those 9, 4 of them are broken. It is very difficult to, run a business with some broken windows that you have to slide up and down and put a stick into, so I need to replace those windows. Again, they are, just around 13 years old, they get a lot of use sliding up and down. It's a type of window that the replacement parts you just really can't get, so we need to replace those windows within that booth. The other part of that, the booth renovation, is the outside of the booth. If you can envision what the outside of the booth looks like right now, it's a wooden clapboard that's around it. It's basically wainscoting. A lot of that wainscoting is deteriorated on the bottom. There's a lot of folding of it. There's moisture behind it. It needs to be replaced. And I'd like to put some sort of AZAC siding around that to make it A, look better, and to last longer.
And the windows are, when you say new windows, like vinyl, maybe vinyl clad windows, so.
Yeah. The windows, obviously, when they were put in, were probably the cheaper model, I'd say, when they're better.
Are they wood?
No, they're vinyl, but it's the inside, the window itself has like a stop mechanism in them, and they've broken off.
Okay.
The next capital project would be a resurface of the pickleball court. So our pickleball court is approximately 4 years old now. If anyone drives by there in the summer, you know the amount of use we get. Winter, any time of the day, really. It is obviously, as everyone knows, a growing sport that daily we get phone calls on. How do I get into the pickleball program? Where do I start playing pickleball? We house it in our gymnasium right now, 4 days a week, to get them out of the cold. We have thousands of people that play pickleball.
Maybe this is one of those revenue.
Yeah. We do actually generate revenue back into our program account with our pickleball courts. So you typically, a top coat on the pickleball court is paint that has sand in it. And that sand gives you grip, and that's what makes you from not slipping everywhere, basically. So those typically last 6 to 8 years. Ours lasted around 4. So that's just the use that the court got, right? So looking to resurface that. We did put this project out to bid. The bids came back, and Carl is gonna reject the bids, I guess.
So there's a consortium we can go through and get a lower price. So it actually will be a little bit lower than 13.
Which I found out.
So are you literally putting a new surface on, or are you just repainting? Repainting the top?
It's not taking anything up, because it's post concrete, that is totally fine.
So are you just, this is for, at this price is 13.8 just to paint it with the sand paint?
So what it is, you do wash it, and it's a little bit of a power washing, just not to get the cement, obviously, but to get some of the loose paint. And then it's several coats of paint and light striping, obviously. So I actually went through the bid, so that's what it is. And there's a little greeny sand so that you're not slipping all over the place.
What's the cost of building a new pickleball?
Well, the ones we have, if you do like 3 of them over there, it's gonna be about $150,000.
Yeah, those were 80,000 5 or 6 years ago. It's about 160 now. I mean, the price has just gone through the roof.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People want more, I will say that. But we also relined some of the tennis courts to reflect more pickleball courts. We have 4 more over there as well.
And the good thing is other towns are putting them in. So that's why I don't feel the need to immediately put in more pickleball. Other towns should share the burden of
East
pickleball.
Line is recently put some in, Westbrook has some now.
Clinton's talking about it.
Clinton's talking about it. There's other facilities in the area. East Line actually has a big indoor facility out there. They're putting online very soon, so hopefully that'll take a lot of pressure off, because we have a lot of people from a lot of different areas calling for pickleball. Next project is a Clivus bathroom for Maple Avenue. So, a few years ago, we put in a Clivus bathroom, two of them actually, through a steep grant, and one is at pickleball courts and one is at Town Park. Clivus bathroom is simply, Clivus is the name of the company that provides it. It is a waterless bathroom. It is, a great bathroom in my mind. I thought they'd be good, but they actually meet my expectations of, as far as cleanliness and smell of them. For a pit toilet, quote, a pit toilet, there's no smell in them whatsoever. There is a solar powered fan that takes the odor right out of the building. They get lots of use and, they've been great so far. So, Maple Avenue is a field that we house a lot of different youth sports at, whether it be soccer or t-ball or, the soccer club has practices there. We have an adult program, soccer program there as well in the summers. Sometimes lacrosse teams use it for a little bit of practice, so we have a lot of use there. And right now, we just have a porta potty. And I would like to upgrade that into a bathroom. It's part of the initiative for the commission as well to go greener within our parks. And by doing this, certainly saving on water and electricity for any bathroom. To build a brand new bathroom, they're quite expensive. It would be exceeding the cost of $58,000 to build a brand new bathroom there that would be flushable. And these bathrooms are a great alternative and they're great for the environment.
Would far exceed that.
Yeah.
I remember when we were doing the bathroom at Saybrook Point, there were like floodplain issues in terms of location. Do we run into that with Maple Avenue field at all?
No, we don't. So that's a good thing.
We weren't able to build a bathroom, we were able to renovate a bathroom.
Yeah.
Yes.
We couldn't put the Clivus.
We would
one
not
there.
be able to build. a
Right,
bathroom.
exactly. Renovate, sorry. FEMA.
The next project would be a new shed for Maple Avenue. The current shed that we have there houses, goals and equipment and vine and grass seed and things of that nature that we use at all our different other parks as well. That current shed that we have there is well over 25 years old. It was an original shed that we had here at the old town hall before we renovated it. And when we're renovating, it was up for grabs, so I grabbed it. Not me myself, but the Parks and Rec department grabbed it and we decided to put it at one of our parks and it landed there eventually. But now that is dilapidated, it is crooked, the doors don't really shut, the roof is leaking. A new shed is needed. We need facilities to house what we have. This particular shed would suffice our need. It would upgrade our facility. It is a beautiful looking building. And I'm just looking for a shed for Maple Avenue to replace the one that we have.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you have security down there?
As far as cameras, no,
Not at Maple.
not at Maple.
Well, just concerned about the equipment in the shed and
I mean, they're all locked up, obviously. We have locks on them, but I'll knock out, we've never had an issue there. As far as even vandalism or anything written on the building, which is really good. We do have 2 or 3 neighbors that overlook the facility that have called about other things. They didn't like where the porta potty was one time, so we moved it, things like that. So I think some of those people give us some security as well.
Ray, does every park have a shed?
They do not.
So how many sheds do you have?
That one.
That's it?
Well, we have one in the back here, but that house is a lot of paper materials from the rec department.
So what happens in the other parks?
So in the other parks, for example, we have a small closet at Town Park that's attached on the other side of the bathroom. We use that for a camp. We have a small shelf in there, but you can't put goals or anything in it. And we put flags in it, and it houses our water irrigation system. Trask Park has a closet off the dugout. It's literally a water closet. It's very small. So we don't have any real facilities to house anything else. The majority of it really truthfully is at the town garage, and Billy has been cleaning all the time in the garage, and we keep bigger things there too, as far as like pallets of turfus. Can't put it in the shed, and so things like that are there. Plus they have lawnmowers in there and everything else, so
Yeah, okay.
the space goes away pretty quickly.
So Ray, the title of this slide is New Shed for Maple Ave and Ferry Roadfield. Is it
Oh,
one
that-
shed
that
that
was-
goes for both of them?
Originally, I had two. We had talked about it and we took one away. I didn't change that.
Okay.
That's my fault. The next particular project I'd like to try to accomplish is a new awning at the Vicky Duffy Pavilion. So if you picture the pavilion right now, to the left side, we have a large green awning that overlooks the patio that people sit underneath, have lunch, hang out, watch the water, watch the birds, watch the fishermen, things like that. That particular awning had a large rip in it, something that the company that services that awning every year could not fix. It is well over 10 years old, that particular awning, so it is in need of replacement. And that is the cost to replace that particular awning.
I have a question for you on that.
Sure.
Could there be a permanent overhang put on there instead?
I'd have to go through zoning to make sure we could. Not positive on that.
You know, just an open type thing?
Sure.
It's one and done?
Yeah. We could look into that. I mean, there's sort of one on the other side that as you go up to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something like that nature.
Like a pergola? Like a pergola type of?
No, just a couple of poles with a slanted roof. Same thing as an awning.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Couple of poles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's permanent.
I can ask Chris Costa if it's allowable. I don't know. I'm sure it would be, but.
Yeah, I mean, that way we put a 30-year roof on it and go.
Yeah. Last particular project I'd like to do is a project that I would accomplish with our Public Works Department. Mini golf, if you imagine mini golf, in the front of mini golf going towards the river, we have a large area that has large rocks in it. Those particular rocks, every time it floods out, we lose some into the Dock and Dine parking lot, into the mini golf course, into our regular parking lot. And in the summertime, we are constantly battling weeds into it. And it's a struggle to get the weeds out of there. I would like to take those rocks out of there and replace it with a stamped concrete. And then use that area that's now stamped for picnic tables, so people can enjoy having their lunch up closer to the water, whichever one wants to be. Anyway, so, we have a lot of people that actually utilize the mini golf course now, when they're not even playing mini golf, they ask to sit at the picnic tables to have their lunch, so, if I could put some outside of the course, I think that would, people would greatly appreciate it, and it'd look better, and it'd take our maintenance costs down, so we wouldn't have to spend man hours in there raking large rocks out, or when a storm comes and our flower baskets that are in the rocks get all crooked because the rocks have now washed out, we have to lift them up, replace the rocks, so, something that Billy and I cost out that he can do himself, it's simply just taking out the material that we have, and that's the cost of the materials, to redo that particular area.
How big is that area?
Oh gosh, it is, let's see, it's 80 feet long and it's oblong because it comes down and it swoops a little bit, so width wise, it's going from like 12 feet down to like 6 feet or 4 feet, I think, at one spot. So, area, square footage wise, I don't have that, I don't think Billy gave me that.
So how big are the racks that are?
Oh, they're like 3-inch.
3-inch racks?
Yeah, they're big.
I thought they were boulders.
No, not boulders, no.
And then the other problem I'm thinking about is, storm damage to that new walker building.
Mhm.
How are we gonna prevent that?
No storms.
You're in charge.
So is this right against the water?
No, it's not ready to start.
Oh, it's in.
It's
It's
from the
in, yeah.
sidewalk towards mini golf, so we have that long
So it's on
walkway.
the inside of the sidewalk.
It's on the inside of the sidewalk there right now. It abuts the fence of mini golf.
Okay. Pictures would be good next time.
All right, Ray, I assume you're done?
Yeah, that's the last one. Yep.
Could I ask one question on that?
Sure.
You have yellow poles, I know I spoke to Susan about that.
The
And they
bollards.
look like they are not falling down quite yet, but they're rusting away at the bottom. Do you have any plans to replace them or redo them or what?
The bollards itself, no, those, I'll talk to Billy, see what we can do with some of those. Those were put in 9 years ago now, 8 years ago.
I didn't hear you, what?
Those were put in like 8 or 9 years ago. I'll talk to Billy at Public Works we'll take a look at them,
Yeah.
see what we
I
can do.
thought they were there to protect people from going into.
We were required to put them in there.
I found out that the core is not steel, it's aluminum. So it wouldn't stop anything.
So after Sandy, those were put in with the contractor, so, yeah.
They should, well, I don't know, they should stop something.
Right, I mean, they're built with concrete. Yeah.
Well, they gotta stop people driving their mother-in-law into that.
Exactly.
Okay, other questions on capital budget, George?
Yeah, so just a couple of comments. And so, I mean, mostly coming back to Carl's comment about, funding the strategic plan. I mean, I applaud the Parks and Rec vision for strategic plan. I think, like the library, I think the Parks and Rec serves an incredibly important role in terms of creating the image that Old Saybrook is, right? And so, and I think that's really, really important. And so, in terms of funding it, I think the town needs to fund whatever future plans that the Park and Rec needs to do, whether it comes out of the income generation or whether it's some other fund. I think, to me, it feels like a wash. So I'm not really sure that's I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But in any case, but the bottom line, I fully support funding that. And coming back to the question about, continue to think about income generating or revenue generating sources and so on. In my mind, I think we want to be a little bit careful about that, because I think for me, it's a fine balance between, again, the image of Old Saybrook. You make everything free, we risk destruction of the property, right? Because if everything is just free, we charge too much, nobody's going to come. And so there's got to be some fine balance where we charge enough so people don't want to use the property, but low enough that it's heavily used.
Absolutely.
So, and it really draws in the public, I would say, for other reasons, for other business as well. So there's with indirect benefits for that. And so, yeah, I look forward to it. I mean, Jim Henderson's coming. I look forward to seeing what we will do. And it's just remarkable what you guys do.
Thank you for recognizing that, because that's a constant conversation that the commission has. We're here for recreation for our residents. If we just have it as a avenue for generating revenue, then we're ignoring our residents and saying we've raised the price and no one would be able to afford doing it. We have a constant balancing act to make sure that all of our families, regardless of their economic status, can enjoy the recreation in this town and all of the programs that we have. So I'm always cringing when I hear revenue creating, because that's kind of counter what recreation is about. And I think with the help of this board and the board of selectmen, we can come to a better balance of how we can plan for the future use, the future upbeat of our parks, because many of our parks have only been created in the late 60s, early 70s, and they're beginning to look at, and we need to make sure that they're updated to what our residents and use is for now. So thank you for recognizing that.
And George, just, I don't know if you're aware, but a few years ago, the Board of Finance, we were able to take $2 of the $7 fee that we charge at mini golf now, and $2 of that goes into a strategic fund, sinking fund as well. So that is one good thing. That fund, last time I looked, was around 330, I think.
So there's money, I mean, there's some money.
One other question, I hear we're just acquired property on Ingham Hill Road, about 12 acres.
I don't think that's.
No, that's land trust.
Wait, I didn't hear what you said. Say that
A
again?
house that,
Okay.
somebody deceased.
Yeah, so first of all, out of respect for David Brown, he died a week ago. But from a factual point of view or from a land records point of view, I'll just say this much. The town has an option that was recorded in the land records to acquire that land. However, there's a time frame on that, and
It's too premature.
it is. I think it's premature to talk about at this point.
Now, when you say an option, is it a financial option?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's stated right, in the it's $94,000.
It's 12 acres.
It's 12 and a half acres. So, but let's hold off on that conversation right now, just out of respect.
No, I'm just thinking, if we had an opportunity to get other fields other places, rather than spend 325,000 fixing the hole down there where the soccer field is, that'd make a nice dog park.
The hole.
I think that's not a very good
Well, no, you
accurate.
can stand at that parking lot. It's 3 feet below the parking lot.
Well-
It's 3 feet below the apartments. And it's about 6 feet below Route 95. And that's the issue.
So we're not funding it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look like we're going there right now. No, it's wet. And by the way, I've had people from other towns say, oh, that feels awful, you
That's
know,
right.
I mean. So,
It certainly needs some work, but to go on to what you just said with the dog park, yes, a dog park is needed in town and we need to find a facility to house that.
Okay, other questions people have?
and Brad, I can talk to that.
I'd just like to make a comment, and it's going off of Carl's earlier comment before we got into capital projects. I mean, for the last many years doing this, I've asked Park and Rec to, if we could start to put money towards some of these bigger projects in the budget planning process. And so, and going back to Carl's even earlier comment during the Acton Public Library presentation, Park and Rec is not only just for our citizens in terms of recreation, it's also the things that attract people to want to become a citizen that lives in Old Saybrook. Bring in people from other, towns to come and recreate here and enjoy everything else that the community has. So it's a big piece of Old Saybrook and a big driver of activity and economic vitality. And so I'm very supportive of us finding an avenue to, to stop the chicken and egg piece and put money aside that's directed for these bigger investments that we're gonna need to make to Park and Rec. So I hope that we can continue that.
So they can make them when they need to make them.
Exactly. And that they understand that they have certain resources and can start as a commission to put a plan in place and say, we can take this action because we know we have the money and it's our decision, versus wondering if they can get the board.
However, I still think it should be just like similar to Board of Ed, under the purview of Board of
Yes.
Finance. Park and Rec Commission would probably recommend a project. It would be a designated capital project. I still think the funds would probably come through the Board of Finance.
Yes.
I think, I mean,
We have to.
we haven't gotten there yet. Well, it wouldn't necessarily have to. But let's talk about that at a later date. We'll run some numbers and we'll see how this board feels about the budget.
I guess one piece to all of that would be also, how active are you in looking at, grant opportunities at both the state and federal level? Because if you've got 330,000 in the bank right now, and we know of projects that we'd like to be done, the ability to designate some of that as match to some of these grant opportunities. And, I hear you got 3 staff and all that, but it seems to me that there are opportunities that come down the road, and being able to be ready and jump on those.
So grants come across our desks frequently, actually. I think the main issue with town park is it's not engineered out yet. So it's hard to apply for some of those grants if you don't have the fiscal plan, right? Jeff Jacobson has been very busy for the town, and he's been working on some other things prior to working on the town park plan, which he knows he can start working on. So hopefully we'll have that in place very shortly here, so we can start applying for some of those grants if need be. For example, there's a state of Connecticut does a large trails grant program every year, and we applied for one last year, and we're gonna apply again this year to upgrade some of our trails at the point.
At Saybrook Point.
So when we say town park, just so that anybody who's looking at this later, is Clark Community Park, I mean, the proper name, but those of us who've been in town for all of our lives just refer to it as town park. And I'm thinking, oh, these people think we have a 20th park in this town, but it's actually Clark Community Park.
Okay. Right.
So the question I have is, if you're applying for these grants, does it make sense for the town to have, like you said, the 25% available, so that when we're applying for the grant, we're more likely to get it?
Yes, always, the answer to that question is always yes. And this board has always been incredibly supportive of that, and I appreciate it because we've done it with the sidewalks that we're gonna build to Westbrook. We came to this board and said we need we put up a 25% match on that from capital non-recurring. So we have a very healthy capital non-recurring account with $2 million in it right now. If we can, and they have 330,000 in their designated account. So if we can start building that fund between the two funds, there's match money. Old Saybrook, I will tell you, is in a much better position than a lot of other smaller towns. And I know that because I'm on the Council of Small Towns. Through the COG, I see the other towns in the region, and they struggle with match funds. And we don't, because we've had some foresight and some support with these two boards working together. And that's been super favorable going for matches, because we can say, yeah, open up a quarter of a million. You shouldn't say it like that.
So we should really, when we file a grant, we should file it with the idea of using 25%.
100%. When if Jennifer's writing the match and she comes to me and says, can we fund a 20% match? I say yes.
Okay.
I say yes. And then I ask.
Just on the operational side of putting grants in, Ray, are you taking the lead on any park and rec grants, or is Jennifer, how are we supporting that?
Jennifer is mainly writing the grants. We'll certainly work together. I mean, also she
okay.
asked me what
Great.
we need to do that, but she's writing the grants.
Great, just wanted to flag that for everybody in terms of the request to increase Jennifer's hours. So just wanted to connect dots.
Yeah, as we're looking at town park in developing this, I just wanted to kind of put it out there as if we're looking into accessibility to that park. I mean, as a resident of Schoolhouse and just seeing kids and community members, riding bikes to and from, I think we really need to look at if we're bringing a lot of people there for recreation, are there sidewalks or safe ways to get in and out of it.
Yeah.
It's a difficult sidewalk road. We've talked about that.
I understand.
Difficult.
It's difficult to do a bike lane too, because, of the width of the road.
It's got to get.
I know in my particular town where we have, they've actually taken the bike lane and made it the actual side of the road, not the side of the road, the actual road. They painted a bike symbol in it where they give them the right to ride in the road.
So
The footage is the problem.
Yeah.
You have so many feet.
So in Middletown, in parts of Middletown, my mom's up there still, so I go up there. There are certain roads in Middletown, busy roads, East Main Street, Millbrook Road, where they've just imprinted the bike
in the middle.
And I've talked to the chief about that, and he says, no, as the local traffic authority, it will give people a false sense of safety. So I'll just leave it at that. It's been very difficult to put in bike lanes in this town over the years. Public safety, fire included, our roads are old. They're a certain width. They're not going to increase in width. A lot of them are state owned. That's not the problem. But anyway, we don't have to go on.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Ray, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Take a move to the group. Anybody want to take a 5-minute break before we move into general government, or do we keep going?
Sure. By the way, excellent cake.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Old favorite apple.
Because that is really good.
Off an apple tree in town.
Yeah, apples.
No kidding, it's really, yeah, it's.
Okay, for the show. You just.
We didn't say that.
Yeah.
Because.
Thank you. I have one more question.
Sure.
I've already actually.
I saw the discount.
Yeah. If you want the next one, I'll say.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I want to support this guy. Be careful to say. I'm with you 100%, but I'd like to see three bids.
Yeah.
Well, they've seen. All right, thanks, next question is. I'd like to see the bids. The other thing is instead of, what was the size of that? I don't know. Maybe they'd be better off to do 2 8x8s and do the pumps. See, that's your call.
Yeah, it's still.
I understand it.
We're moving.
One part to another. That's great. That's what you gotta do.
You better be efficient here, Leanne. It's the next part, you know.
See, I
You don't need to go every slide.
Where is your 96-year-old grandmother?
She is in Old Saybrook. She's off Coulter Street. When you go down Coulter Street, you take that first left behind Liberty Bank and there's the condos back there. Yep.
So, look now.
Yes, she's local, although as of late, you know, needs more support, so has been moving around through all of the siblings' homes in the Northeast. So, yeah. She just came back from spending the holidays in Maryland. So that's a really good application.
Yeah, I did. I don't wanna, I wanna wait till I'm done.
Wondering if you can bring us at my house. So, yeah, so my wife is like.
You're going where?
Well,
No, I think.
I think there's a real interesting thing about whether you have Big Brother or not, but I do think you have that the one way in and out.
So whether.
You're gonna have an idea of what. Like what we hear as neighbors, so that's our neighbor, and you're. No, that there's.
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's like crazy. It's like, it's a job where you really don't get control.
Like, yeah.
I know your schedule, like at any point, it changes.
But I don't. Did you make that, George?
I don't believe that. It's really good.
Giving you credit.
It's fun.
I was.
Very nice, yeah.
Office and was like, okay, so get all this information and then give it to them, like, okay, so now you have to go ride a chair.
I know that. I saw you on
Yeah.
TV. It's great.
I don't get that level.
Right then and there, I'm like, I should text you.
Yeah, so it's.
So next time I'm gonna text you, going,
It's just funny stuff like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good.
George, that cake is delicious.
Thank you so much.
So you made that from scratch?
Not me, my wife, yeah, she made it from scratch, but it's
Not you. You're
not
right.
me, not me at all.
I'm curious, like, is she using like brown flour, white flour, sugar? You have no
I
idea.
have no idea. She just said, she normally cooks with, whole wheat flour all the time, but she didn't work with this price, so she said it was triple sifted, which I don't know what that means.
Okay, triple sifted means it's really like fluffy, as you can tell, so
So,
you
yeah.
gotta tell her this was a hit.
Well, thank you. I really don't have that, but,
Right.
And look the way the crust.
We'll call it.
Yeah, sort of like a glaze, like it's very,
yeah, no, I.
really good.
It's
Think about that, you know, I didn't think a lot about making, I think a really nice.
If you go all the way down the hall, like everybody's going.
No,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, you don't.
I am still that.
Where,
I'm an advisor.
you're an advisor?
I work at Pfizer.
Oh, advisor. Are you a
Pfizer.
chemist?
I'm,
No, I could just picture you as a
oh
chemist.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
You're a chemist, right?
Thank you. I am. So right now I do pretty small contracts. But I'm training.
You're quite
Right.
Yeah, well, yes, not too bad of a drive. How long is that about?
It's about an hour now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about
Too bad.
The summer was traffic is
Yeah.
the worst.
Are they still doing that, closing off the 95 or do the blasting?
Not
right now.
Not as much anymore.
That must have been a hassle for a
It
while.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm very fortunate to be there for.
I never-
Land loose.
I never noticed a lot of people like, you know,
Yeah, didn't they give you?
it's Saturday.
They give everybody 5 stars.
They did. I don't know,
Yeah.
but now they basically, it's not a good idea to actually own stock in the same place that you work.
I wouldn't think so either, but I think the stock is doing well still.
Yeah, but in terms of longevity, that comes very.
Most people it looks very healthy.
Right.
Yeah, nice company.
Yes, my stepdaughter's, uncle retired 1 years ago. Darren, and I'll get them out. Also, you have to buy.
I mean, the place used to be.
I know, but you get it at the door.
Huge,
Yeah,
huge.
it's $25.
I mean, right now it might be
We're talking about this bread.
more.
Yeah. I know, I keep forgetting.
Everybody's talking about this bread.
I mean, I'm here.
Have to, it's delicious. The
I usually don't
whiteness,
have
oh
a
my
lot of
goodness.
cats, you know,
Very good.
because.
Sorry.
There's like.
I'll pass on the questions.
Have a cash rather than a check. That's
Yeah, the big for us anytime, but no, we'll get back.
But I
Watching our diets.
That must be.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, it's gotta be a nice chocolate flower.
All right.
Okay.
But thank you.
So, good news is I am going to be super quick. So if I go too fast, you're gonna have to raise your hand if you have a question. But these are a lot of the things that we don't need to talk about. But you have a budget here that I've given to all of you. And I want to make sure that in some form or fashion that we touch upon every single line item so that, you know, if we do have a question or you want to dig into it, that you do have the opportunity. So all of the large departments or those departments that have something special going on are presenting to you in person. We've gone through almost all of them, and the chair has arranged for the police department to come in on February 6th. So we will see all of those departments. And I'm going to go over, everything else. So pulling the budget together, it's 51.5 million. The general government, all the budgets that you're looking at are up 756,000 or 4.1%, with debt service coming in at a negative 492, down 16%. For the general government, all net told, we're up 264,000 or 1.4%. So that's not a bad starting place given all these changes that we've seen. As I said before, I don't know what the Board of Ed is going to come in at. That's an indication that they've given me, so I think it's going to be somewhere around there. I don't know exactly. A lot of things moving parts over there with everybody leaving. But town-wide, being up 1.2 million, or 2.5% again, is still a very reasonable spot. The things that are globally affecting this budget is the post-employments. I'll talk in a couple minutes about the fire department's COLA increase. We also have increases for inflation and a lot of the contract renewals that we've seen in person and that I'll go over. And of course, we always keep our focus on strategic planning. This year, we focused on the DPW capital plan and the review of the debt service. So we have increases across the board in terms of salaries, benefits, operating, et cetera. And we'll go over all of those. For the salaries, this equates to of the 756,000 that the general government budget is going up. 255,000 or about a third of that is in relation to salaries. And again, you've seen the request for increased hours at economic development. You just heard about the minimum wage. I'm going to talk about the assessor in a moment, the WPCA director, which is a reduction in salary. And then this last one, addition of a second in command for PD. They have a captain position that has been vacated, and they're going to they put into the budget for a second in command, which the current position is like at 115,000, and the one that they're putting in is like at 130,000. So that did make a difference, but the police chief will talk about that. So that item is an increase of salary versus a new position. Correct. Got it. Correct. Yeah, additional salary for second in command. Probably would have been a better way to put that.
So you said that was 130? I thought I heard in there,
That would
listening,
be rounded.
I thought it was 147. So he was talking about 50,000 less than his current salary.
Right. I thought it was 127.
I'll
All right, no
look it
problem.
up.
Just,
I can look it up. I'll look it up at the end. But we'll talk about that when they obviously do their presentation as well. But 3.2% in salary changes, I think is reasonable, given all of that. In terms of benefit expenses, they equate to 189,000 of the 756 or 25%. The drivers here is the town's pension for defined benefits, up 34,000. The fire department, because of the COLA, up 34,000, and the police department health budget is up 67,000, and that's not unusual. They have a large budget. It's the assumptions of who and the plans that they're utilizing over there.
And they have, they filled all their patrol positions. That's my understanding. So other than the second in command, they now have they're paying 24 people. Some of them are in the academy, but they are paying, you pay when they go to the academy. But they do have 24. That's my understanding as of last Monday night.
And I always like to give Carl credit on this one last point. And over the last 5 years, the budget is up only 413,000 from point A to point B for 12.7 over the entire, not annually, but 12.7 over the entire period, which shows the work that has gone into keeping these benefits low.
Oh, okay.
And here's health care, the largest of that, 1.1 million of the 3.7 million. And you can see the blue is on average what the Connecticut public is versus this year minus 0.67. And that's due, obviously to negotiations and plan changes. The other large part of the benefits is our actuarially defined contribution. And that,
Yeah, where are you? What page?
I'm on 8. I told you I'm gonna go fast.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll tell you when I'm gonna flip the slide.
We appreciate it.
Yes, okay, I know you do. So the ADC is 707,000 for the town, 212 for the fire department. And then, of course, we have 180,000 for defined contribution. And we have been looking at the ratio of defined contribution to defined benefits. I just like to point out in this slide an example of how the selectmen and the finance boards of selectmen and finance have approached longer term strategies. And several years ago, we were a pay-as-you-go plan for the defined benefits. And then you can see here in the gray, we were using at the end of the year, we used some surpluses to get us up to the correct amount. And then finally, we made the decision for over the long term to fully fund. And that's kind of the approach that we're taking right now for the capital plan at DPW. We're at the starting gate now. We want to have a plan that works over the long term.
Can I comment here on defined benefit and defined contribution? I assume everybody knows what we're talking about. We're talking about a municipal pension versus kind of a 401k style plan for all new hires after July 1, 2017. They're now in a more of a 401k style plan with the town. We still require a 5% match or 5% contribution from that employee. They must put 5% of their salary into that DC plan. We match it, but we'll match it if they want to go up to 8%, they can, and we'll match it up to 8%. So it can be a reasonably healthy plan. Long term, what are the benefits of that, and what are the downsides of that? So we have a grandfathered defined benefit plan. So imagine as more people get old, Larry Bonin just retired, Julie Pendleton just retired. So as they retire, they go into the DB, defined benefit municipal pension payment system, which of course causes those payments to go up incrementally over the years. And we have nobody or no new employees contributing to that defined benefit plan anymore. So, or less employees. I'm still contributing, I think.
Me too,
Yeah. But as the working population of the town gets older and goes into that, pretty soon there'll be 0 people contributing and people will be in payment status. So these payments on the DB side will increase. The town contribution will increase because the town is now matching on the DC end. And as more employers, so that's the idea. I just want you to know that, it's good 20 years down the road, but there is a period of time where these payments are going to continue to go up as people go into the retirement. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on that.
I don't think so. I mean, it's mathematical. Less people paying their portion in, puts more burden on the employer.
Can you speculate what that would be?
No, I mean,
That's why we have our pension reserve. We have that as a strategy here with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. We'll use that reserve over the next several years to kind of mitigate the spikes that may or may not occur in the budget.
you also, I mean, this is going to sound awful, and it is a actuarial term. There are years where you have mortality gain, as they say. Okay, so obviously people pass away, as people come on too.
And they don't transfer to the spouse?
Some do, not all. We just had somebody pass away and it was just a single wife.
Okay.
George?
I don't want to, it's a huge topic and I'd like to, I'm wondering whether we could basically give this discussion of the time, because I think it's something that I'll be very interested in. But just to throw it out there, I think it's great that you guys have been able to actually get new employees onto defined contribution. 80-20 is a remarkable number. I'm surprised I think you got 20% to be there. And I totally understand your increasing cost for the defined benefits portion. I'm just wondering if you guys consider basically just buying them out at some point. It's going to cost a ton of money. I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
But it's a limited cost, right? It's a limited cost versus the other one. It's essentially unlimited cost.
I don't know.
And
So we did have that option, when we had the defined contribution plan in place. And we said, anybody that wants to get out of the defined benefit plan, and, it would have been an actuarial gain. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, I think 3 people did it and then they left. So they took the value out of their defined benefit plan. So let me skip, I go fast when I think a lot. So if you're not vested 10 years, you only get back in what you put. So those people, weren't here for 10 years, so they would have gotten back $10,000 of what their contributions were. Because we offered them the chance to cash out, an actuarial amount for that was worth $30,000. So we put $30,000 into their defined contribution plan and then they left. So, there's pros and cons to it. And it's contractually negotiated. So to get out of this, to just say, hey, we're just going to close out the plan and go to a DC is monumental.
Are you talking about like current members, like?
no, so I will derail this conversation so badly, and I do not mean to do that. And the math is actually, it's beyond what I can do in my head, but it's so. I don't mean to pick on Julie Pendleton, but just pick her example, right? You mentioned her name, right? So for example, right, so at this point, I presume she's annuitized, and so she will basically be, and you guys are very generous in terms of actually keeping up with the COLA, which is phenomenal. But essentially at some point he says, we're just going to just buy out, here's a lump sum.
Yeah.
And you play the actuarial game, right?
Right.
So
We've done that too.
it will cost a ton upfront, but your liability is limited.
Yeah.
Well, the other factor in that though is what happens if they pass away?
When?
Within that period.
But that's the actuarial.
That's the
That's just an actuarial you can't,
It's the throw of the dice.
you don't bank on that.
So, one last question, at least for me on this. What is our annual payment in the defined benefit?
707,000.
The town side.
Town side, the town side is 707,000, and then, 198 comes from the Board of Education. So if you add those two numbers together, what is that, like 800, 900?
887.
887.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, then what are we currently collecting from the employees that are in the defined benefit?
We're collecting mostly 5%, but there's been some, contractual, negotiations.
Just a
little more.
different number.
A rough number
Of the
of
707.
employee contribution
Oh,
as
okay.
employer.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but I can get that for you.
Well, I'm just thinking of going to Carl's, issue about the, that shrinking number of employees, the greater number on, just being able to give some, sense of that dynamic.
So 260,000 is what the employees contribute. And that was this year that we're in. And their estimation for 2023 is 232,000. So that's up by 25, 30 grand.
You say 2023, but 2025?
Yes,
Oh,
sorry.
Wait, so
So for this valuation that's affecting, it's kind of like the grand list, they do the valuation year
Yeah.
before, so I'm sorry I got that confused, but this year, the employees, 260,000. And then for the updated valuation, which will affect this budget season, they're assuming 230,000,
Right.
so 30,000
So
less.
we're watching that decline take place.
Correct,
Got it.
yes, and somebody has to make up for that, so, and that could be made up in investment gains in other ways, but, us, our payments too.
So there's three buckets. There's people in retirement status, there's people in the DB plan, and there's people in the DC plan. And it's the folks in the DB plan and in retirement that we're watching.
Okay, George?
I'm just saying, I mean, and I truly hope that we will come back to this, right? Because I think your question is a good one, but I'm not so sure that the numbers actually, it's more, to me anyway, it's much more complicated than that, because that 260,000, whatever you mentioned, I mean, right now you could say it's offsetting whatever, but it doesn't come close to what benefits they'd be collecting when they retire, right? I mean, it'll be 10 times that.
But that's
So,
why we're fully funded too. right?
Understood. So yes, I mean, it's,
That's the good news.
the defined benefit is,
Expensive.
Right.
other words, but yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. I'll continue on. So operational expenses, are up 263 of the 756. So each salaries, benefits, operations are up about, 1/3. And, you've seen all these individual budgets come through, but I'll tell you what the top expenses are that are contributing to this 263,000. Number one is WPCA. You saw the reduction of the salary, because we took the WPCA director out of it in the salary, and now we increased this expense line item by 65,000 because we're gonna hire a consultant to help us while he's not here. You're gonna see a $20,000 increase in engineering because of all the stuff that's going on in the town. We can't keep up with it. You're gonna see an 18.5 increase in the water, the fire hydrant water that we put out for the fire hydrants. You're gonna see a 17.7% increase in our appropriation to youth and family services. They're gonna talk on Tuesday, so you'll see them. $13,000 increase in in our insurance line item. $12,000 increase in our accounting department for technological services. I'll talk about that in a moment. You've already seen IT department. They increased $10,000 because we want to have a contractual line item to help offset our one-person show. You've already heard that. And then $10,000 increase in the town hall maintenance line item that I'll talk about in a moment. So those total 166,000 of the 266. After that, there was 53 other line items that people requested with about, which $2,000 increases. So all, nothing major across all the others. So those are the main operational increases, and you have seen most of them already. So now I'm just going to go through the departments who are not presenting, and just shout out if you have a question, because they're all different departments. So the accounting department, actually is up 25,000 at 5.8%. That's a large, we've actually seen decreases in the accounting department over the past several years. But, as I said, inflation and the contractual price increases that we're seeing for some of the services now that we all have
Excuse me, thank you.
software systems in accounting, we have the accounting system, the timekeeping system, and then the system called ClearGov, which is the budget system, and that's the budget books that you see. And so a couple years ago, we paid for this out of, when somebody left, we had some money and we paid for it, but now we're incorporating it into our budget. So all technological services for the accounting department for the $25,000.
So the employee number is, higher. We tend to look at somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 on the employee numbers for a lot of these line items, and this is 4.2. Is there something happening on the employee side?
Yes, the assistant finance director is new, and so she's down at level 1, and she'll get a step and a contractual increase. So that accounts for that line item increase.
Thank you.
Okay, the assessor department up 17.2 thousand and 9.9%. So in this line item, we when they're working on the grand list, October to December period, we have historically brought in some help to crunch those numbers to get everything ready. We paid for it out of the reval account, and really that's not appropriate. That reval account is for when we do our revals every 5 years. We're trying to save up for it. It's really a regular ongoing operational expense. So we want to put that in the right place. Nothing more, nothing less. It's for the hiring of a part-time person there.
And it's to do a lot of the personal property accounts, make site visits. It's more it's actually a lot of out of the office stuff and reviewing, like I said, computers and what people are claiming on their personal property.
Is that a temporary position?
Nope,
Okay.
it's yearly. They do it every year,
Oh,
Kind of,
every year.
every year.
So the question is, with AI and so much information available now, property values, et cetera, I mean, I would think that there's almost less work as far as determining values and substantiating it.
It's actually a question of what people are filing and verifying it or doing inspections and saying what they didn't claim.
Yeah.
It's actually more like that than it is just putting a value on it. As far as just putting a value on things, which will result in a little less work, October 1, the state is going to go to a different form of valuation for vehicles. They're going to get away from the NADA valuation yearly, and they're going to go to an MSRP formula with a straight decline over the course of, I think, 20 years on a vehicle. So that will result in less work. And I may revisit this with Norm next year, because if we're not revaluing all 5,000 cars, once you have them valued in year 1, it should be set on auto pay after that. So let's see how that change works out. There could also be a loss in revenue to the town for that, and towns are very concerned about that, about this change. So we'll see how this plays out. That could be, I mean, there are towns that think they're gonna lose 100,000 in revenue, but I don't know if we're gonna lose anything like that. I don't know. Maybe it'll be net.
What about power boats that are here but registered out of state or through the Delaware Corporation?
I
mean, usually.
That's a state registration.
Well, they're
right?
not state registered. They're through Delaware. And you'll see these yachts down at the point that are, 45-foot yachts.
I don't know what our ability is to tax those. I don't know. I don't know.
They're here for 6 months or something. I would think that.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
I could ask.
So there seems to be a shift here between the purchase professional services and the technical services. What's going on?
So I like to clean things up when I can. And sometimes I'd like to, for example, electricity is probably an easy one. If I wanted to see across the whole thing, how much we spend on electricity, if they have it in the right line item, I can just pull up the electricity line item. It'll tell me what we have for every single department. So the services are not purchased professional services for vision, which is the system that they use for to do their brand list. It's really a technical service, so we put all of our software, annual fees in that line item, so I just wanted to clean it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on, I can't say, Board of Finance. The only increase here is for the auditor, and, this year coming up, we're gonna be doing an RFP for the new auditor. So, you know, that will change, but this is already, set in stone how much the price would be. The building department, on the next page is up $1,800 or 1.3. This is only salary. There's no other changes to this department. The fire department, and here is where we have the ADC going up, 34,000. Now, when we did this review for every 10 years, the, fire department, has their, annual stipends reviewed for the cost of living raise, and so that took place. And so their, ADC will go up to 247,000. And we recommended here that we use the, pension reserve to kind of, you know, phase it in over time. But this isn't really going to take place until the following year, so we're probably not going to use the pension reserve, but the ADC is going up to about where that is. So the budget won't have any change, but we're just not going to use the pension reserve. You're looking at me, did you want to say something?
So we're proposing a $34,000 change.
Correct, but not using the pension reserve. It should have been a $67,000 change.
Operation function.
Yeah, so we're just not going to use the pension reserve there. That doesn't affect the budget.
The pension reserve part, but the 34,000.
Correct, yes, correct. Fire marshal up just salary and benefits, 1.1% budget increase. Land use department, nearly flat. The salary increases, are offset by,
Insurance.
health
insurance.
Health insurance, thank you. Somebody changed their plan from a family to a.
Somebody's kids aged out.
Aged out, somebody's kids aged out, correct.
I have a question now, with fire marshal.
Okay.
You got all these columns, but I'm not, I guess I'm lost on what.
Oh,
There's no heading.
the heading, I missed the heading on this thing when I did. So it's, I'll read it to you from left to right. 21 budget, 21 actual, 22 budget, 22 actual. Fiscal year 23 budget, 23 actual. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go from the other way, from right to left. So it's the, year over year change, the dollar change. And this is the 25 request.
Why don't you just read, we'll get it to you.
Yeah.
Why don't we just,
Yeah.
why don't we just get it?
And it's all the other ones, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this one I did cut off
It's not
21
page.
budget and actual. Here we go. There's the next page has it.
Oh, okay, here we go.
And, Board of Finance. I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, guys. Registrar of Voters, if you recall, George and Megan won't recall, but the Registrar of Voters needs some assistant registrars, and so we're kind of building that budget up. Especially this year can be a major election, so we increased $5,000 for extra salaries and FICA taxes for those registrars. The Selectmen's budget has no changes to it except for salaries.
Go back, registrar.
Registrar.
So the 12,600 in regular employees is 5,000 for each of 2 deputies plus FICA.
Correct. So you can see the extra personnel and part-time seasonal were reduced. I put everything into salaries where it belongs. So 7,600 negative on the lines below offsets that 12,600 positive. and the net difference is plus 5,000.
Last year, I think we put in 2,500 each for a deputy, and now we're putting another 2,500, so we get to 5,000
Correct.
total.
Mhm.
So we want the Republican registrar and the Democrat registrar to each have a deputy that they can save $5,000.
And they also came in last year on their own salary, and I know we did a small bump
Last
associated
year.
with that.
Last year we
Are
did.
was that the beginning of a trend, or are we just maintaining that?
It was not the beginning of a trend. We adjusted it last year. I don't know, are we increasing them at all this year? Like,
We are not increasing them.
so, that's basically a stipend. And we, I think, looked at regionally where we are, and we found that after we made our adjustments, that we're about where we should be. That was my opinion. And, they're not underpaid.
So the registrars earn 13,556, and then the deputies will earn 5,000. That's each.
And
And then,
about,
so one last question. So, and then we've got, early voting.
that was my question.
And a week or 2 weeks or whatever, is there, and we pay folks for that, right? So is that extra dollars in here as well?
So under 53,100 official admin services, $10,000 for those votes.
Right, but I'm just saying, there's gonna be an increase in effort. So whether or not we're budgeting for that.
So we put money into an off-budget
We do.
account.
so
For this?
the town, we're gonna get two sources of funding, to see how this goes. We're gonna get 10,500 from the state of Connecticut. Every town in the state of Connecticut is getting $10,500, no matter the size, which is kind of an interesting way to distribute the money. Plus we put 25,000 in an off-budget account to see what the extra costs are gonna be, like as we go through the next couple years. So I think we probably, between those two sources of funds, have plenty of money, for the presidential coming up this year. And what I think we'll probably do is start budgeting off the presidential for the early voting. So I think over the course of the next 1, 2, 3 years, we'll be able to, I think I'll go into the budget and say, okay, looks like early voting costs the town $15,000. We're gonna have plenty of money for the next couple of years for early voting.
For what we've set aside.
And I think we should start building it based upon what we experience this year.
So how much do we have totally for early voting?
Well, we're gonna probably end up having about $35,000 that.
Plus the 10, right?
Well,
No, this.
Oh,
Yes,
plus
plus 10.
plus what we have budget.
We would have 45 for this year.
I think we're gonna be in good shape.
How many people typically vote?
We don't.
Well, in a presidential, 80% of the population,
80%?
Oh, yeah.
And that would be how many voters total?
That's-
8,000.
8,000?
Yes.
So it's about $65 per voter to do the system.
We're gonna find out what it's gonna cost. I have no idea what this is gonna cost us. The state doesn't.
Expect, right?
They should give a stipend if you vote on the voting day, a discount to save money.
So I think this is something that we are all going to experience together.
Yeah,
And we're gonna find out how much it's gonna cost us.
Yeah.
And I think we are well funded for it, well funded.
I hate to be brittle.
Yeah.
Well, we're probably gonna get new machines in the next year or two also, not this year, but I would expect by next year, we're getting new machines. These machines are becoming outdated.
Okay.
All right, so we will figure this out. Selectmen's budget, just salary increases and what it changes. Tax collector budget, they did request some extra funding. We have the QES quality data system that is that processes all of our tax payments. That system went up, so they did request a little bit of extra money there. as well as some for supplies, but nothing major, but up 10,000 or 4.5% attributable to the increase for, that system of 3,000. The Kate up 2,500, again, in this, line item. Electricity, just right sizing the cost for electricity versus what was actually, registered, so we increased that 3.5%.
Just, I saw Brett the other day, they were in their shed putting some things away. They closed the year with over 60,000 people who walked in those doors last year. That number was 45,000 just like 2 years ago. I mean, the amount of people that go in and out of there on a yearly basis is staggering. And I think the effect on the local economy is probably not something we can calculate, to be honest with you.
Too bad it was bigger.
What?
Too bad it's not bigger,
Yeah,
capacity wise.
it's true.
Town clerk budget, just, the salaries and benefits there, you know, the operational expenses,
And people still getting step increases there.
not step increases. Town hall, the major increase here is $10,000 to the maintenance line item. It's just, you know, a building that's older and we've been repairing things as we go. And right sizing, natural gas and electricity up to what we actually paid for them, the year before. You can see a new line item, bank fees, that has to do with all of our credit cards and things like that we're starting to process. We have seen, traffic decreased significantly in town hall, which is a positive thing with using lockbox, credit cards, online systems and whatnot. And as we mentioned, the tax collector did renegotiate the prices for these, for the payment of taxes online, to $3.95 for a debit card, and like 90 cents for a check. So it's, people don't need to come in, which is positive. Treasurer?
On the
Yeah.
increase on building maintenance, are there particular projects that are included in that 10,000?
No.
No, because, you know, just things just break, you know, because it does, we don't have it. It's just more close to what we have been experiencing. And, you know, we have a lot of plumbing, HVAC.
And we've also, done some renovations in the offices. If you look at some of the flooring, gotten rid of the kind of gross linoleum or whatever was there and put in composite flooring to make the offices be painted. And we still have several other offices to do, so that will be included in that over the course of the next fiscal year. We don't have Dan Moran anymore but Dan left us with a great resource of folks to call on to do work. So we had a crack in this hallway, the art hallway, for instance. We have a crack down the middle, and the other day I looked through Brian at the hardware store. I said, "Hey, is there a good handyman in town?" And he gave me a guy. So we're now using this guy. When someone calls, this guy's gonna come in, as long as it doesn't need licensed electrical or plumbing, we will be using him and just paying him. So people just call and say, "Hey," and this is just a line item that we want to keep town hall looking decent. We've actually talked about looking at this hallway here because it's awfully worn. I don't mind the look of it, to be honest with you, but I see it every day. Maybe I don't see it type of thing, but it's bamboo. And I think you'd end up having to pull it up. It's hard to refinish it, is my understanding from everything I've heard.
So your budget is actually very low for the size of the building. I mean, they usually figure 1.5% to 2% of the value of the building. So I mean, I'll say the town hall's worth $1 million, which is probably a lot more than that.
We do. Yeah.
So I mean, you've got a very conservative budget here, which is, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Good. Treasurer's budget remains flat, no change year over year. WPCA, so, I don't know, Carl, if you want to talk about, the changes that we have here, I mean, or do you want me to, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, just, Jim, Vanoli retired. And we're kind of in this middle period where we're transitioning from on-site septic systems to what are we gonna do with Chalker Beach, which is going to be a community system, saying it out loud, recorded. So, we were working on that, and that's something that we'll be talking to this board about probably just post-budget. Talking more about that. So we don't really have a need for someone to look at septic systems every day or design septic systems. But we do have Fussin O'Neill as a consultant, so we basically took that money and put it into professional services for Fussin O'Neill, because those costs are going to continue to increase, or at least be more intensive.
Doesn't that also take the liability away from the town? You know, in other words, when Fuss O'Neill says you gotta do this, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a consultant, but it's also good to have a check on a consultant like that too. So, and Jim did a lot of that, but, Jim was an engineer. He was very valuable. But he just was ready to move on, so.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about, various line items. Yes,
I didn't appreciate we were gonna ask questions, we could have asked questions throughout the slides, and
Yeah.
why can we really finish throughout? I don't know how you wanna approach this in terms of.
well, I think that we should ask questions as we go, because I'm going department by department, by department. It's.
So this is a nice break then between
Yeah.
various ones. So just a lot of general questions. And so before I start, first of all, I just want to comment. I am truly impressed by both Carl, you and you in terms of this is my first Saturday meeting. I'm going to appreciate how difficult. I think I was new how difficult it is to actually run a town, and we get to see the details. And I'm just want to comment. I'm truly impressed by in terms of how much knowledge you guys have over the details of every department, and that's stunning that you guys can do this. And
We live it.
We live it, yeah.
it's actually
You know more probably.
very impressive. Some procedural questions, and maybe very naive. Why is the accessory department and the tax collecting department separate departments? I would be.
That's an interesting one.
Because.
Good enough.
So, yeah.
That's the why.
Why are they separate?
Some towns have
They do.
a tax collector assessor is the same person. And we have actually, through our town hall administrative program as a start, trained them to go to a variety of different departments so that they can become experts in everything that we do. And it makes it easy when people are out or whatever the case. So we have started the first step towards, combining, our employees as assets to help work out. And then we have hired CLA. I don't know if you were here when we did that, but the operational consultant who's coming in. Their first step was to look at all of our IT systems so that to see if we have an appropriate launch pad for doing all the business that we do here in town hall right now. And then we still have the draft report, we don't have anything ready to come back yet. Now they're looking at our administrative assistants to see how they support, every business that we do. And then we're gonna look at the departments themselves, the supervisors and what their jobs are. And our goal was to, we've done a lot of stuff internally. We kind of came to a stopping point, like, we don't know what else we can do now. We've made lots of changes. So they're looking at the silos that we have. One of the silos is the tax collector and the assessor.
Yeah.
Opened up the room, we've
Yeah,
done lots
we've
of.
made fiscal changes so that it's one room, which is awesome. Most towns have a very clear delineation between the two offices. It is rare that the tax collector and tax assessor are in the same, are run by one or the other. Interestingly, the tax collector is appointed, the tax collector is elected and the assessor is appointed. So you'd have to make a change there probably. In all fairness, I'd probably not have a tax collector. I'd probably have the assessor who has requirements. They have, any of us could be tax collector because it's elected. Whereas the assessor, to be an assessor, you have to have a really, significant understanding of property valuation and taxation. So that would logically be the leader of that department if we were to combine them. So I don't know that CLA is gonna come back and say, hey, you should combine these two departments. I don't know that they're gonna do that. It is something that I'm aware of, and that would be under consideration. Wouldn't necessarily save money, you probably need, it might save a little, like 20,000, but, having one person can be done. I don't know where it's done necessarily. It's not done in a lot of places, but it is something I'm aware of.
I mean, I wasn't implying to try to save money by any means.
Yeah, no, right.
It's just,
Right.
In terms of the logistics, right?
Yeah.
So one question I have, isn't that kind of like a debit and credit thing where the one guy's charging and the other one's collecting it? I
No,
mean,
actually,
to me,
one
it's-
person generates the information for the other person to tax off.
But if you have an assessment question, a valuation question, you go to the assessor. And then on the other hand, he's collecting money. I'm not sure. I don't know.
From a consumer standpoint, though, it might be easier to have.
From a what?
From a consumer standpoint, from the, community standpoint, I think
Yeah.
sometimes there is confusion where, where do I go?
Yep. There's still two windows, but
George, what's next?
So the Catherine Hepburn case, I mean, I appreciate, again, the question knows people going there, but I don't quite understand how the process works, right? Do we have a budget for the case? Like, obviously, that place generates a ton of revenue. And so I'm sure that the revenue that generated far surpasses the $74,000 they're asking for, so how that.
that's a town building.
Right.
And a 501c3 runs the operations on the inside. They have a separate electric utility meter. They have a lot of separate expenses. But the town is responsible for the infrastructure, and that is pursuant to a 50-year lease agreement that was signed when the Cape first came into being. The Cape pays $600 a month in rent.
How much?
600,
Wow.
right? I think it's 600.
Well, 6,000.
And that money, what we're doing is because it's a nominal amount of revenue that we receive, we put that into an off-budget account. Just in case there needs to be an expense that the town's going to incur related to the Cape.
$600, period.
500.
That's it.
All right.
Is it 500?
500.
Yeah, it's 500,
6,000
so it's 6,000 a year.
Oh, no.
But that's a 50-year lease or agreement.
So the entity itself, in terms of income generation, is a separate organization that does all that.
The entity,
The 503 entity basically,
they pay for all the stuff on the inside. And they've spent a lot of money, and the town has spent a lot of money on the infrastructure of that building, a lot over the last 12 years.
the town hall budget, no change in the employee salaries, and I presume that there can't be either there's a reduction in employees, because I can't believe that nobody's getting a salary increase.
So, it's because of turnover.
Perfect.
So we paid somebody at a level 5, now it's
Understood.
level 1, it kind of evened it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, I'm better.
Okay.
Appreciate it. All right, thanks so much.
Okay, so then I'll go to the various line items. So non-major budget line items here. Engineering of 20,000 for all the projects going on.
This is
Oh,
something
I'm sorry,
Bruce brought up
28.
last year, starting to build in a little bit more.
Insurance of 3% or 13,000. Public health and nursing board of 1,521, that's for BNA services having increased. The tree warden of $1,500 that's for the tree warden salary. Waste collection of 2,000 and the water hydrant of 18.5 thousand. So,
I'm gonna jump in on two things here, well, maybe three. Street lighting, we continue to see the benefits, having gone to LED lighting, many years ago, not that many, I guess 5 or 6, 7. Water hydrant is just a remarkable expense, that I just can't get over every year how much it goes up. And that is through Connecticut Water, it's just to keep water at the hydrants. And there are many places in town that don't even have hydrants. And this is just to keep the water to the tap at the hydrants.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes up relatively significantly every year.
I have a question on hydrants. At what point does the town increase, the coverage? Like I had fire on the next street over from my house. They had to lay hose down 2,100 feet to fight the fire. And I just didn't know, is there a plan of the future of changing it?
I have not heard of any plan to increase the coverage from Connecticut Water.
So who would initiate?
Connecticut Water.
They do it on their own, or do they, if they extended it, say, I think at one point they extended it down to Route 9 where the Yale New Haven building is? And I believe they
Yeah.
brought the water
They
down.
did to the town
Did
garage.
Yale pay for that, or did, because of the increase in volume that, I mean, how did that?
I don't know if
take
that
place?
was a project they were planning on doing or that Yale requested it and had some sort of payment to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then Bolcom Road, they did to get over to the,
Yeah.
apartments or nursing home or
Well,
whatever.
Bochum Road, they did it to tie in with the Chester water system. Because that was during a severe drought year
Yeah.
or the year before. And they decided that they would, I think they essentially connected two water systems by doing that Bochum Road. Don't quote me on Chester. So that if the shoreline were in severe drought, there'd be a water source elsewhere that they could draw upon. That was the Bochum Road project, to connect
Right.
two water systems. Insurance, that is through KERMA, obviously, property liability, workers' comp. Workers' comp is actually going down a little bit. Property, as you can imagine, property insurance has skyrocketed across commercial, residential, everywhere. We're very fortunate, I think, to only have a 3% increase on property insurance. Through KERMA, they've had incredible price stability over the last 12 years. If you saw a chart with KERMA, I mean, you were there,
Yes.
we were at the KERMA annual meeting yesterday. It's basically a flat line. It's just remarkable. And I'll be chairman of the board of KERMA in March.
Question is that include flood insurance?
Yes,
Oh, well,
yes, it
yeah,
does.
it does, right, right. And we have flood insurance.
I'm Vicky Duffy, about 6-7 grand a year, and, that's the only one.
So the school pays for it on their own?
Goodwin.
Goodwin?
It's a Goodwin, yeah.
They pay
And
for it?
it's out of their budget, yes.
Carl, you also?
Yeah, I am, thank you.
Any other questions people have on this? George?
I should look this up, PHNB.
Public Health Nursing
Thank you
Board,
so much.
And that incorporates visiting nurse. There's a contract to the Visiting Nurse Association, Southeastern Connecticut, as part of that. So that
So that's just them doing clinics in town and.
clinics and they do a lot. I know they do visiting nurse. It's really, the visiting nurse contract makes up about half of that budget. And they do a lot of work. Obviously, if you need a visiting nurse in town, that's right, Matt has to go. And they also go to the senior center and they do a lot of stuff at the senior center, the visiting nurse. Thank you, Matt. Have fun.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
okay.
Oh, and did we bump, we didn't, no. Actually,
Do you want to
just,
say something?
I may bring up legal services a little bit. You may see that in a final budget. Mike Cronin, I can say it publicly, I said it at the Board of Selectmen meeting the other day, is basically not going to be town council. After a certain point this year, early this year, he's going to wind down his practice. Mike Cronin has been town council for 40 of the last 50 years, and he's been council to ZBA for 50 of the last 50 years. Even when he wasn't town council, they didn't remove him from ZBA. He's just been a remarkable person for the town. He is closing this practice. They're gonna move to be closer to family. We're using a firm called Bertram Moses. They have several practices, several offices in Fairfield County, New Haven. They are a town council to a bunch of towns. They do a wide variety of work, which is great. Chris Costa is working with one of their lawyers right now on some of the stuff Mike would normally be doing, and she's very happy so far, which is important. I'm using them on several matters. My guess is that they're gonna be a little bit more expensive than Mike Cronin was. Mike was incredibly reasonable at a reasonable rate, and so I'm probably gonna bump that budget up just a little bit. In addition, we have negotiations with 2 unions all this spring for contracts that expire June 30th, police and support union. So, and that could, what I'm saying is that could drag into the new year too. Because sometimes negotiations do. We don't have to have a contract, unlike schools, unlike teachers, by July 1. Sometimes our negotiations do extend a little bit further. Hopefully they won't. But I am gonna bump that up, because I think we're gonna need a little more money in there.
Good.
Okay, with the exception of harbor management, all these other commissions are land use commissions. And all the commissions are flat. They are able to operate within the amounts that they have. So there's been no changes to any of these commissions. Political subdivision is also an area that we still are getting requested, and this amount will change by the time the selectman has his final budget. But we did add 1 new category for the Starlight Festival, to add $5,000 to pay for that festival every year. So that's an increase on the political subdivision. So the rest of the stuff that's gonna happen is just increases as we get the requests in.
So Leanne, you show us the 25 amount, but just on 24 or whatever it is, are any of the ones that are here an increase over the current budget?
Any of what?
Yes, are there any of the ones that are, I just show you the year, fiscal year 25.
Right.
And yes, there are increases, like I think the River Valley Transit went up a little bit. And when, none of them have gone up and materially, like, you know, $1,000 here, $50 there. And when you have your last budget that will come forward to you, you will see 24 versus 25. And I should have showed you that for the individual ones, but I'm sorry that I did not. But I can tell you that the some of them have gone up incrementally.
So typically the ones that go up every year, 2% to 3%, are the town's contribution to the Estuary Council of Seniors and to Nine-Town Transit, which is now called River Valley Transit. And those typically go up, like I said, about 2% a year. Everything else is really just a contribution the town makes, most everything else. And it's just within our discretion whether we want to request a little bit more money from the Board of Finance. CCM's dues have been flat for at least 5 years. And I think same with Council of Small Towns, we belong to both those organizations. So really the only 2 that should be inching up are the council and River Valley Transit, pretty much.
But if I remember, the estuary has been kind of on a big curve. They were
So
at
the
one
estuary-
point down, and so now.
That was true. They were up towards 70,000
Right.
a few years ago. And then they came in with a request, and I think it was post-COVID or right around COVID, because they just didn't need the money, and they're a nonprofit. And they really don't want to request money that they don't need. So their budget, it came way down, and quite frankly, I'm like, I almost wish they hadn't done it, because I'm like, you're just gonna now want to start bumping it up again.
Okay.
But
Just looking at, I'm still trying to figure out what falls where in the budget, but the elderly tax benefit we were talking about, that doesn't come in this category. Where does that fall?
It falls on the revenue side or a lack thereof of revenues. So when we do our tax budget, which is the largest budget, and when we go over the mill rate, which we have to wait till after February 20th, because all the, what do you call them? Appeals are coming in place. I'll show you, that this is our tax base. And then we deduct from that the elderly benefit, the abatement we give to firefighters, some assumptions for corrections and things like that. So it's really a reduction in the tax rate that will come to fruition.
Virgil.
So
we move on to your next slide, will be retiree benefits. I'm just trying to add up the various numbers. I'm sorry, to the general summary that you had back on page 4. And so just in terms of the non-major budget item, well, so on page 4, the operational expenses total for fiscal year 25 is 5.8 million. And so is that the addition of basically the non-budget items, positions, and the subdivisions? Is that pretty much?
That's operational.
Those are all
Are
operational?
operational.
Very good. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Right.
So, salary, in this thing right here, salary line items begin with a 51, benefits begin with a 52, and anything else, 53 thereafter is operational.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The comment you made about the water hydrant, right? That essentially represents about 20% of operational expenses.
Because what?
It represents about 20% of the operational expenses, which is.
Yes. Okay, so the next one is the retiree healthcare. So we, are up, this one's significant, 43,000, or 15.2%. We've had a lot of retirees. Not all of our retirees are eligible for healthcare, but some of these long-term employees that have just retired are. And the police officers, if they retire between age 55 and 65, if they've made their 25 years, we pay for their single life insurance for them. So, life insurance did increase, as you can imagine. Such a terrible thing to say, people are gonna pass away, and we are gonna pay out if they're part of that group, so that insurance does tend to go up every single year. The retirees over 65 increased 14,000 or 9.6. That includes a 5% increase in the price of health insurance, as well as new people that join that. So we have people that retired before 65, but then they turn 65, and they go into the Advantage plans. Those are all Advantage plans. The ones for under 65 are normal, high deductible healthcare plans, and they are a single. So we had 5 new retirees that were added to the census, so that.
So we don't have that that is an old contractual benefit that has gone away. So Larry Bonin, for instance, his retirement party's later on today. I don't know if anyone plans on being there, starting at 1 at the Elks. He's 62, or he's about to hit 62. He has been such a long-term employee that contracts were negotiated subsequent that grandfathered employees like Larry in, where we pay their insurance, health insurance, until 65. That doesn't happen anymore. With newer employees as they came on subsequent to a contract that was, I think, negotiated in 2005. One other thing, I hate to keep looking at you guys, I feel like, but for your education. So retiree health insurance is an other post-employment benefit, right? So we fund our pension by making a payment that an actuary tells us to make. In theory, you could do the same thing with this, but we don't. We do kind of what the state does, which is pay as you go. So this is a pay as you go fund. This is what it costs us. We're not trying to meet the long-term actuarial obligation that they tell us we have. We're just paying it year by year. Because if we were to start funding a trust, it would be a long road and it would be a lot of money, because the payments, if you were to say, here, take us 20 years out, we want to fund this obligation to 100%. I imagine the payment would start being significantly more than this. So it's been a very manageable payment each year over the last 12 years. And this year it's going up a little bit. So I just wanted to kind of throw that at you, that this is something that is a pay-as-you-go. We don't think it's an expense that's ever going to just get out of control, because the over 65 part of it is actually not that bad. It's
gonna peak because.
What?
It's gonna peak because these folks, as they pass away, there's not gonna be new folks that are coming in. But I think that the amount of employees that are entitled to this that are still working are like maybe 5.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. It's.
Actually,
except for
Ray
the-
Allen and Chris Costa, because they
Ray
started
Allen.
working so long ago and they're still young. I
Yeah.
mean, but they'd have to retire.
From here,
Yeah.
go into retirement to get it, so this will peak, probably within the next several years.
So are we self-insured on life insurance?
No, we
We're
have.
fully insured.
Yes.
We're not self-insured on health or life. Yeah. George,
No, I mean, I appreciate, yeah, same with Megan, I appreciate you looking at us and explaining, because I don't understand a lot of this, and so if I misunderstood what you said, we pay for this benefit, it's gonna, I guess it's gonna sunset at some point.
Yes,
But for the ones which are grandfathered in and so on, we pay them until they get to Medicare age, so I guess I don't quite understand the retiree grade 65.
so they get an advantage plan, after that, so they get Medicare. And then Medicare supplement, then instead of paying for a high deductible healthcare plan, which is $10,000 a year. We work with Brown and Brown and they create an advantage plan, if you know what it is.
Yes, yes.
And so, that's, Medicare plus $5,000 that we pay for that plan so that they get similar benefits to what they
Very
had
nice.
prior to that.
So that will go on into perpetuity until they pass away.
Correct.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, debt service, we talked about this, I'm sure everybody remembers. The green, is our actual at the moment contractual requirement for debt service. And, as we had in the debt service strategy, I budgeted $80,000 to use of the benefit assessment funds, for this fiscal year in particular, so it will reduce the contractual debt service down to $80,000 left. And the blue lines is just demonstrating, when, we project for the WPCA, the $10 million coming on, so you can kind of see it, picturesque. So I think we went over this. I know it was a very confusing when we did, but, debt
It wasn't
service.
confusing, you did a great job.
Less 80,000 is what we are budgeting. Okay. Okay, this is so the capital committee met on January 22nd. We went through everything. You all have heard from, Ray today. You've also heard from Larry. So you've heard for all of these contractual, what we call the named projects. The, named projects total 155,000. I can tell you that, Carl is probably going to include $50,000 more because we heard at the Capital Committee that Youth and Families, van has 300,000 something miles on it and carries school children around. So we want to get a safe vehicle for them. And so we're going to add that.
Yeah, we're talking about buying a vehicle. I mean, they're driving ridiculously old vehicles and
Yeah.
the cost of a new one is 60 grand. We're joining, through the COG, a purchasing consortium. Probably next week, we're gonna, talk to the folks. And so I'm gonna explore through them, what they might have for van purchases. They usually, the whole point of a purchasing consortium is they have these vendors on call, that you might be able to get a van at a discount or a lower price, so. But, you know, Heather came in and truly with duct tape and glue, it seems like they're keeping this van and like, this is ridiculous what you guys are doing. I mean, you do, they shuttle kids around and I want number one, number two, I want the drivers who, they all have a special license to drive these larger vehicles. I want them in a safe vehicle that's easier to drive, that has more safety mechanisms so that they don't get in accidents. I mean, when I was listening to her, I'm like, this is ridiculous.
No, it's scary.
I don't know how I let it happen last time.
But we have to get the,
Where?
the capital committee also makes sure that these things are appropriately procured. And so we have to do a couple
Yeah.
extra steps for that and that will happen.
So this is money, I guess it's $275,000. That is, it's a flat line item in this year's budget. It's been basically the same amount for some time. And from that 275, we're picking off several projects here that total 155. And then if we add something else, it'll be added at some point. But if in fact we stay under that 275, anything above what is now 155, which could be more, will go into the capital non-recurring fund. And that's the point of this 275, 300,000 that we have set aside every year, is to build our capital non-recurring fund.
So we're, keeping the fire department the same, flat. We're gonna increase recommending to increase public works by 10,000 because you saw that, program that we're starting. So we said we're gonna start adding some money there. Under the reserve account, we're gonna start a new reserve for, Celebrate Saybrook Festival. As you know, that's been successful. We wanna put aside money to build for that fund, over time. And then down in the bottom category, under capital expenditures, those expenditures are found within the operating budgets. So increasing public works paving budget, our target was 500,000. We finally got there. You can see over time, we've been increasing it a little bit every year. I actually think, I have a little bit of a mistake there under, information technology. I don't think that he was gonna raise that to 25,000. I don't think that he did. So that might, be a mistake. I think that we went the consultant route or something.
Leanne, you have the budget years, you see the budget years above capital expenditures?
Oh, yeah, I gotta fix that.
Yeah, just so no one's, that's okay.
I
I
use
just,
templates every year and I
Yep,
change
yep,
one from
yep.
the top. Thank
I
you,
just,
Carl. And then, so that's it, for changes, we added 25,000 to paving, 10,000 to the Celebrate Saybrook, 10,000 to the Public Works transfer, and then as Carl mentioned, of the 275 that we put into capital non-recurring, we name the projects, so that when the budget is approved, we can actually move forward with them. Okay?
I should have asked this when, DPW was here. And maybe we'll talk about it at a different time, but, do we have, is there a schedule that they're using for repaving or, these, this repair? I mean, we're at 500,000. Does that give us a mile, 10 miles, and then kind of, is there a 20-year schedule? Because that's what the repaving lasts for. Is there a plan? I guess
That's one of his goals, was to create, so in the DPW budget, he had like 5 strategic goals, which I thought was great. One was the capital plan, one was to develop a fleet maintenance plan, one was to develop a paving plan. I forget what the other ones were. Maybe there was only 3. But anyway, Carl, did you want to say
yeah,
something?
just paving means a lot of different things.
Right.
It can mean just a fog seal, if you're completely reclaiming a road like we are in Cornfield Point after they do the water, it's very expensive per mile. But there's a lot of other ways to extend your miles, and I think that's a great conversation, maybe after the budget's.
Oh, yeah, I'm just rating.
Because I'm no expert. And then one other thing I brought before the Board of Finance years ago, there are programs you can buy through CCM. They have a bunch of vendors that they've kind of pre-selected, sourced, where you can have a company come in and literally they'll drive every mile of your road and take a look at your pavement and give you a rating on every road that you own. And then as you do roads or as you enter information as to roads you've done, you can have a list. So in theory, if someone calls and says, what about Nutmeg Avenue or Nutmeg? And you can say, that's rated a B and we're not going to touch it until it's rated a C, which we estimate will be in 5 years. So there are programs out there. They're not widely used. It seems like, I don't know why. It's called Street Scan. That's the name of the program. But they're out there. If we want to take a look at something like that, I'm sure they'd love to come in.
I remember that.
Yeah, they did come in, I think.
Expensive, but.
Yeah, I mean, 25,000 or so. Yearly maintenance, probably 10 to 13 for the software, for them to continually update it. But they'll do street signs, they'll pick up a lot of stuff on the roads. And too much information probably, but.
Okay.
So, all the other departments got to tell what their financial accomplishments and strategies are,
You
so
want your moment in the
I
sun.
would like a moment in the sun. But just to, remind everybody that you all know that we have a lot of strategies that we put in place for the long term, for building up capital, and that we don't get into trouble or get ourselves into a pickle because everything is in place and we do have good budget practices. Also, operational accomplishments that we've had is, all about these because you have approved them, but we have implemented them. And again, it gives us a great platform and from which to launch our next year's budget and to build upon. So townwide, these are some of the really great things. Adding Celebrate Old Saybrook this year was a brand new one, and hiring a director of public works was a brand new one. So all really great. For next year, some of the things that we are working on, again, this operational efficiency, take a look at succession planning, to take a look at better workflow. These aren't meant to save money, just so everybody knows, it's meant to reduce risk. And we'll take a look at those as the recommendations come in. Mariners Way, we have a consultant there. You've heard about the Acton Public Library. We've heard about phase 3 of WPCA. We've talked about all these things in the budget. Again, we have lots of large grants out there. And we're going to have a page in our budget book that talks about grants and all of the projects that we've worked on, including the ones that we didn't get, because there's still the same amount of work that goes into them, whether we get them or not. And then to revisit Saybrook Point revitalization. And that's it.
Well done, well done. Questions that people have? George?
Yes, again, I would go with second group's comment, just phenomenal presentation. I just like a bunch of comments and questions, just for questions. So first of all, I would fully support that street smart, for example, you talked about, the cost that does not scare me at all. I think it's a very reasonable cost. I think in the past you've mentioned comments where, I think when Bill, the Public Works was presenting, and you were saying that if the roads are cleared and so on, you get a phone call in terms of how great it is. And an important comment that you made, like the public is very cognizant of what the roads look like. And so if there was a master plan in terms of which roads happen, you can say, yes, we're aware that your road needs some work, but guess what? There are 3 other ones or 5 other ones ahead of you. And it's quantitative. So they're very easy to do that versus the hodgepodge way of fixing roads based on whoever makes the most noise. So I think that's, I've always said never been just making noises and getting roads fixed. So I think a regimented effort to fix roads, I think, is important. $500,000, it'll be millions of dollars to fix roads. I mean, big roads are incredibly expensive. The last slide you had in terms of the goals, I think that's probably such a critical slide. And I think I'd like to spend a lot of time talking about that because in some ways that defines the strategic plan for this town. And that's really what, for me, the Board of Finance looks at in terms of what we fund. And so, and there should be an ideal plan in terms of what it is that we fund. And so when the discussion comes up, from Megan, and the last one we just talked about, the elderly tax benefit was 90,000, 100,000. We shouldn't be judging that based on the merit. We should be judging that, can we afford that relative to everything else we have on that page? Or any other request that people have, and that's really the basis. And so I think that page for me actually is so critical in terms of what we look at. And so, what is the scope of that? What's the cost of that? The Mariners Way, I'm just beginning to appreciate the scope of that. there's a webpage that talks about the Mariners Way. There's an entire commission that was formed to study that. It was put out. I think when I actually went over to the end of it, the report was actually put out 2014, 10 years ago, right? It was an elaborate report. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what happened to that and so on. So it's also, again, very, very difficult. But nevertheless, I think to me, for my benefit, I think it's important that we have a sandbox that we play with, because otherwise it's just undefined sandbox. A sandbox that we'll be playing with for 2025, and this is what we'll be funding. And then everything else, all the request that comes in, can be judged against that sandbox, right? So to me, that makes it much easier to do, because our budget is not infinite by any means.
Excuse me.
I applaud your effort, but I think, some discussion in terms of what that last page looks like, in terms of the scope and everything else, to me, it would be very, very important.
So we have the three long-term goals: debt management of our debt, capital, and then our long-term liabilities of pension and other post-employment obligations. And so I guess we've all just been here for a very long time, and we see all the things that are happening within the capital program, which are what some of these ideas stem from. And appreciate your comment that there needs to be a outline of all of these strategies,
right.
so that like somebody who's not coming in fresh can kind of see some of the things like the WPCA, has been coming for a long time. These requests for sidewalks has been a project that Park and Rec's strategy, that they have, the strategic plan that they have, the strategic plan that the library has. We have incorporated those into the budget, but it's not clear. I hear you.
Great, thanks so much.
Other questions, points? Brad?
What I'm concerned about is national debt. There's 130 million workers in this country, and they say right now this country has $200,000 to $240,000 of debt per person. So what safeguards do we have? I mean, at some point, they're gonna, I believe, come after us for the money that has occurred. And I just don't know if we can be, we need to be aware of that going forward. Not that we don't get, I don't believe we get much money from the feds anyway, but, or the state for that matter. But I just look at this debt. I mean, I think it's a major issue that people are not even aware of, or they're not considering it. But it's a hefty number that is going to come from somewhere, other than maybe the country's going to come claim bankruptcy. I'm not sure, but I just think that we're very fiscally responsible, but yet our father is not being responsible, or has not been responsible, and I just feel as though that we need to be aware of it, because it's going to affect us at some point.
I said, point made.
I mean, it's been true for 40 years, but.
Not to the extreme it is now. I mean, it's catastrophic in my mind.
Yeah.
Other comments? Thank you all for being here on a Saturday morning. Very much appreciate it, and excellent job getting us through it very quick.
Our next meeting is February 6th.
Tuesday.
No, Tuesday, yeah.
The 30th.
Family
I
services.
put agendas. Thank you so much for that.
You're not getting off that.
For the next three meetings.
Tuesday at 10:30.
That's right.
We have
Thank you.
Family services to do the DPW.
Please have an back up into. I know.
Then you're on a regular schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, the March 4th. You don't want to say the March 4th? You got to change the public hearing.
I'm not coming, Jerry,
Oh,
but I will be at the. I have to get out early on Wednesday to take my
Barbara.
mother, so I think I'm gonna bypass.
Barbara.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
so we had originally on the schedule, we had planned to have, March 5th as being the, public hearing on the budget. Unfortunately, the Board of Education, Jan, was not going to be available. So we moved it to March 4th, which is a Monday then.
Public hearing.
Public hearing on the budget. I think it's 6 or 6:30.
It's 6:30,
6:30 on March
and
4th.
I'll be advertising that.